And welcome to the next episode of the Appalachian Podcast. I'm your host, Billy Riddle. With me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Taylor. Bodine, happy Labor Day weekend.
Happy Labor Day weekend to you. What a Labor Day weekend it's been, man. Now it's raining.
It's been one heck of a week.
Yeah.
For a lot of different reasons. Of course, we are in the fantasy football season. For anybody out there that plays, I know we had a show last year dedicated to it. Down at the beat, we called it the roast of the boom boom room with Josh Grice and a bunch of them. And we had Nat Hodges and Jake Naff and Cole and Matt Hubbard. All of them joined up, had a good time. I was going to do it yesterday, but it just with everything going on with the little one and the wife, I just kind of took it off for this year, and maybe next year go back with a little bit fresher mindset. Again, if you do it every single year, it might get kind of mundane and redundant, but maybe next year we'll go back down there and try it again. Had a good time, though. Had a really good time.
Fantasy football brings out the best and worst in people at times.
It does. The reason I like fantasy, I'll be honest with you, it's hard to even keep up with like major sports anymore. It really is.
When you're an adult, when you're like when you have a family or in a job and you're an adult, it is really hard to keep up with these sports. When you want to dedicate your time to that.
Well, it's that too, and then plus, I mean, it's just with every single sport out there, it's gotten so political with everything anymore. And every time you turn on your TV set and you're watching a game or something, it's just 900 different politics from this way or that way, and it gets old. I just want to tune in. I want to watch two people beat the hell out of each other, and then tune off and go to bed. I don't need to be told who to vote for, why I should vote for them, who I should feel sorry for, this or this. I mean, take me back to the days of ESPN. We always had some awesome story about like a kid they were going to help out who had, was sick or something and let it be. I don't need to know anything else. And so it is, it's hard to watch. It's hard to keep up. And
I'm pretty good at tuning that stuff out, but I mean, it's a valid point of and bizarre ads and stuff. It's just like, get back.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just like, I just wish
and we are getting into politics season now. So we are,
unfortunately. So it's everywhere.
That's what sucks about football and politics is they intermingle. I hate that time now.
Yeah. And so for fantasy football, for me, it's a reason to keep up with people anymore. Yeah. So I'm in 4 or 5 different leagues. So I got one I'm with, guys I pledged with at Tech, and then guys that was in my fraternity at Tech that were older than me. And then I've got one with, a bunch of y'all that kind of where the podcast came from. And I got one with all, those other guys in the boom boom room. So it's a reason to keep up. It's a reason to get together once a year, hang out. It's like a reunion.
I'm trying to keep it to 2 this year.
I would like to. It's at least at 4.
We should have had some forethought into this, and we should have had an Appalachian podcast fantasy football league with past guests and stuff.
I thought about that. Next year we should definitely do something like that. Maybe have get a few of us, get a few guests, and a couple of listeners out there, do some promo or something. If you win, you get a chance to compete with some of these people, and maybe we'll figure something out for there. I had a good draft though. I enjoyed my team. Yahoo picked it to be, it gave me the best draft. And during the middle of the draft, one of our league members, I'm not going to give away his name. Because I'm not in the game of blowing people up out here. Let's just say he's one of our buddies from Texas, and his name is
Einhart.
Nat Weaverhart.
Okay.
And and I was looking at him drafting on Zoom because he was the only one on Zoom. And
does he not know what an airplane is?
Well, he's got 3 kids, and 3 kids in Austin.
Are they scared to fly?
Well, no, they're super young, super young. And his wife deserves better than that, so I'm not going to – I wouldn't want her to be dragged all the way out here for him to compete in this fantasy football draft. That being said, I was monitoring his situation, and I don't know if he was drunk or if he was intentionally trying to be contrarian or what he was doing, but I was looking at his list. I was like, who? I mean, I swear he drafted T-Bone Pickens in the 12th. I mean, I don't even know who this guy is.
Did he take a quarterback in round 1?
No, I don't even know. No, I don't even know. Either way, the point being is, as I was like, this is garbage. Of course, he heard me over the Zoom computer, and he wants to start throwing side bets in. So $100. All right, cool. 100. I'll bet 100 on my team versus yours at the end of the year. Wakes up in the morning, the Yahoo rankings come out. Now, mind you, his Yahoo rankings were counted up with getting Justin Jefferson, who was a top 5 pick in the 9th round. because he was a keeper, and that's how our keepers work. If you pick up anybody in the 10th round or beyond, or a free agent, their keeper status, the next season you lose a 9th rounder. And if you pick somebody in like the 5th round, like I did last year with Cooper Kupp, I lost a 4th rounder this year, but I got Cooper Kupp, as a first round talent. Anyway, so the Yahoo rankings come out this morning, and of course I had an A draft grade, and he had like a C- with this Justin Jefferson being factored into it. And all of a sudden, if you're not going to send your money in right now, then it's null and void, and I'm voiding this. So anybody out here that knows Nat Weaverhart, he's a sketcher, and he reneges on bets. So anyway, enough of that. We also had a really good week with, I guess, Appalachian Media, which this show and D's Lugnuts podcast would fall under, because we had Julian Austin down at Racetrack Revival on Wednesday night, and we had the Crumb Snatcher Dean Motley in Darlington for the race on Sunday, the Southern 500. So we got a lot of footage, some good interviews, some good future shows and stuff like that. And if you're looking for the D's Lugnuts podcast today, as you're listening to this, a lot of you do, we're going to release it on Wednesday with Matthew Dillner. That's our special guest. So be sure to tune into that one. Can't wait to talk to him about the revival. That's really the whole reason he's coming on. So
I got to ask our guest, do you play fantasy football? Or
let's just introduce our guest first. Okay. Our guest today is a Franklin County local, a native. Many of you are going to know him. He's been around for a long, long time. We were sitting here. He's about 7 years behind us in school, but sharing some of the same stories and some of the same laughs with some of the people we had dealt with over the years. He is a mixed martial arts and bare knuckle fighter. Brian Maxwell, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So I guess go ahead and jump into Bodine's question. Do you play any kind of fantasy sports?
Yes, I'm actually in a league that I've been in for probably 3 years now. I've had a lot of people ask me to join their leagues, but I try to, with the amount of time that I have to do a lot of things, I try to stick down to one, just like I stick to one football pool, so I don't have to be trying to juggle fighting and training and my son and everything else into one.
You get past one fantasy football team, it can get hectic. Because you got players and trades and stuff going on. It's like, man, you get a little overwhelmed.
Plus, some of your other teams, some players might contradict each other, and you find yourself rooting, in one game for one guy, and then simultaneously rooting for him to break his leg. It makes no sense.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the one that I want to talk trash to the most. Like, if I'm playing somebody in one league that it doesn't really matter, but it's somebody I really want to beat in the other one, I'm like, that's one I got to pull for. But anyways, it's bizarre.
So who's your favorite team? Do you watch NFL anymore?
Oh, yeah, I love the NFL. My team is even though they're called the Washington Commanders now, I will always be a Redskin fan to the death of me. So that's my team. But my secondary team is the Tennessee Titans. I've always loved them too. So, but, the Commanders, that's my team first and foremost.
Yeah. I grew up a Redskins fan, and after years and years of torture,
you became a Cowboy.
No. I still hate the Cowboys, but I do not like. I'm a Redskins fan, not a Commanders fan. That's the one thing I wanted them to hold on to, and it just irritates the snot out of me too, because everybody makes it out to be like it's this god awful racist thing that the name of the team was the Redskins, completely dismissing the fact that it was a Native American who came up with the name, who created the logo, and gave them the name. And he was super proud of it, and so was, most everybody. And now it's like 10%, maybe, I think the polls were, of natives disagreed with it. And, of course, you can get 10% of anybody disagree with something just to be contrarian. And they folded and caved in. And, a ton of people out there, Native Americans, I got native blood in me. I ain't.
I was highly pissed when they changed it to the Washington football team. I'm like, really? This makes no sense.
No, and then the Commanders after that, it's like you just keep doubling down on the dumb. You couldn't think of a worst. I mean, and now your nickname, you're going to be the Washington Commies. There is no doubt about that from here on out. None.
We're definitely not going to escape that. I would have been fine with the what were they going to name it at one point? The Red Wolves.
The Red Wolves or the Red Tails or something. Why don't you just do the pigskins? Then you could keep the skins.
Pigskin would have been cool. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because what they call it, Hog Nation at one
Exactly.
point.
So what are we talking about? I mean, that was an easy transition. You could have kept, a lot of your fans happy. And I
Billy's gonna be happy when Dan Snyder's gone.
Not really. I'll be honest with you. Dan Snyder is a decent enough human being. That's their crux of it. Like, you know, when the hurricanes or whatever hit down in Haiti, that's back when they had Pierre Garçon and another person on their team was from the area, maybe St. Pierre or something. And he sent a whole plane down there full of supplies and stuff down there. I mean, Dan Snyder is a decent enough dude, but for whatever reason, the league has it in for him, and they continue to. Daniel Snyder would shoot his own foot, and then the league would come in and shoot the other foot. So, I mean, it was a double-edged sword. No, he didn't do anything, you know. He wasn't very good at what he did, but neither is Jerry Jones. Difference is Jerry Jones has the NFL bending over to kiss his hind end every time, and Dan Snyder got the short end of the stick.
I never thought about that from Jerry Jones' standpoint, but he really does. I mean, in contrast to the Redskins. I'm still going to call them the Redskins. Oh, well.
Me too, you know, even though I got to buy a whole different set of jerseys.
So, yeah, I guess for podcast purposes and potential guests we've been in contact with, I think I'm going to be rooting for the Colts this year. The Indianapolis Colts. We got hopefully somebody on their staff is supposed to be coming and doing a show at some point in time. So for that simple fact, I'm going to root for them this year because I'd love to have a Super Bowl champion come on here and or somebody with a ring to come on here. And I don't know. We do got the Frank County boy out. Is he in the league this year, Bastion? Is he still playing?
Yeah, he's still playing for the Dallas Cowboys.
He for the Cowboys this year? I know last year, one game I watched him in, I think he got like 2 sacks and a forced fumble, and he was in the backfield tearing it up.
Oh, yeah. He's a good dude. He's a good player.
Man, it's amazing. Even though he's playing for the Cowboys, I still support him just because he's from here. But I still hate watching the Cowboys play. Like, if they're on offense, I'll turn the channel. If they're going back on defense, I'll definitely turn it back to watch him play on defense just to see him play. But other than that, yeah.
I'm the same way. I mean, anybody that comes from here, I love rooting for. I love, you know, somebody making something of themselves, you know, getting away from here, staying here, whatever you do. But if you're out there, you know, representing Franklin County, then I'm going to root for you, you know, unless you give me a reason not to. But for the most part, you know, I like to see, even though he's on the Cowboys, I like to see some of these guys we've got. I think we got some baseball players moving up through the ranks right now from around here. We're starting to get a lot better. And you, of course, are an athlete yourself, and I enjoy watching your stuff and kind of following you, and that's kind of how this all came about. So how did you get started into this whole mixed martial arts world? I guess start from your upbringing around here.
I mean, I grew up here in Rocky Mount. And, you know, I lived in a decent part of town, and, you know, I've always loved sports, and I didn't think nothing of it at first, but, you know, I tried karate for like 2 years as a kid, and I was like, this is definitely not for me because I just didn't like it. And, you know, I played a little bit of basketball, and then I had my first homeschool teacher for preschool. I started going to her son's wrestling matches, the Menifees. I don't know if y'all know them.
Oh, yeah, Stacy and Stephen Menifee. Yeah, how can we not know who they are? Yeah.
But, yeah, I started going to their wrestling matches as a kid, and, you know, I watched wrestling on TV, and then I watched them wrestle in school, and I'm like, man, this is two totally different things. But, of course, you know, that sparked my interest, and, you know, I always wanted to do it, but my mom, you know, would never let me do it because she was afraid of me playing anything with contact, even football. Like, I literally had to sneak and start playing football, like going to the football tryouts in 6th grade. And, you know, I'd tell her I was, you know, staying after school for tutoring or something, or I got in trouble. And she'd be like, well, you just got good attention, do what you got to do. But, you know, I'd go out for basketball tryouts, and I feel like I could make the team, but my heart wasn't there with it. So one day I was just like, you know what, when I finally want to do wrestling, and, you know, I just went ahead. I made it to the final cut of basketball tryouts in 7th grade, and I was like, man, I ain't even going to go to this.
Heart wasn't in it.
Huh?
Heart just wasn't in it.
It just wasn't in it at all. And I was like, I told my mom before, you know, she went to work that morning, like, you know, today's the last day of basketball tryout. So, yeah, so that morning I didn't take my basketball shoes with me or nothing. Because I already had my game plan of wrestling tryouts was the same day, so I'm going to wrestling. So, after school, everybody's going to either basketball tryouts or wrestling or some other stuff that was going on at that point in time. And, I just slid to the wrestling gym. I was like, oh man, here we go. And, for like 2 weeks, I was in the wrestling gym, like literally getting my ass handed to me. And I loved it though, because it was new to me. I had always watched it because, like I said, I grew up around the Menifees and watching them wrestle. And, one day I'm coming out of wrestling practice, and I guess my mom had showed up a little early to pick me up from basketball. And, I'm walking out the wrestling door and she's walking out the basketball gym. And, it just so happened, we just happened to lock eyes on each other. And I was like, oh, man, I'm in trouble now.
It wasn't going to last much longer. She's going to want to come to one of your games at some point in time.
Yeah, man, because she literally thought I made the team and all. But, I was in the wrestling gym the whole time. And, when we locked eyes, I just knew that was the end of me. But, she was kind of mad, but she was open arms about it. And she's like, just long as you don't get hurt. And, she supported me about it. And then after that, she found out the book about football too. So she was cool. So I kind of had to force my way into doing those things because she never wanted me to do those things because, I was the oldest and I'm a mama's boy. And, she tried to not necessarily treat me like a baby, but yeah.
Well, they still look out. Your parents still look out for you no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
They wanted
sure.
it.
But, with wrestling, like I said, when I first started, I was getting my butt handed to me. And, it took me a little while. And then when I had my very first wrestling match, I had to wrestle a girl. And I was so nervous. I threw up before we went out to warm up. And, I ended up losing. And then it just kicked in that, man, maybe I don't want to do this. But, I stayed there with it. So, long story short, I stayed with it. And, it got me all the way through high school and landed me at a college scholarship. So, I'm definitely happy that I stuck with it. And also, I'll never forget, y'all know him too, Coach Kahila. He would make me come for the middle school practices to practice with the high schoolers while I was an 8th grader. And he told me this was what was going to keep me out of trouble, and 2, that it's something that's going to give me something in the future to bank off of because it's going to make me a better person. I'll never forget that. He didn't say it that nice, but
no,
not at all. But because y'all know, like I knew, just like another coach that we know. Once he started yelling and getting in your face, you kind of listen, and it's going to definitely stick with you. So
coaches of that era are cut from a different cloth, and they be the best influence in the world on you, but they be totally. It's like somebody else would hear it and wouldn't get the connection you have to them. Like you have that connection to Kahila or Jesse Roach, the other one we know, that you just have that bond and that connection to them that makes it so different. And everybody else will hear it like, he's yelling at you, but like, yeah, but I get it.
But yeah, man, like I feel like coaches from that area, I even had a coach named Coach Emmanuel Brown that took over after Coach Kahila, and I felt like those guys were like, I know Coach Brown was in the military before, but I felt like every coach that was that hard on you were either in the military or came from a different place of outer space that just knew to pick you, to give you hell, to straighten you up.
They were cut from another cloth. They really were.
Well, you were talking about that earlier, and Bodine started telling a story about one of the coaches. We're talking about Jesse Roach. I know a lot of people listen to this are going to know who Jesse Roach is, and Bodine was kind of being hyperbolic about it, and saying, you could be, bone sticking out of your leg on the field, laying, screaming bloody murder, and he's screaming at you, get up, you ain't hurt, and you could hear that voice across the football field.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, be at Pulaski and, 10,000 fans and screaming and yelling, and his voice carried over all of them. And in fact, that happened. Our 12th grade year, Lindsey Purdue broke his damn leg in the Pulaski game. And he didn't find out about it until later because he actually did limp off the field. But if you can go back and listen to it, you can hear, get up, Purdue. And he gets up and he limps off the field. And I think he went back in the game. Come to find out he broke his leg later. Roach wasn't messing around. He'd get up. He said, rub some dirt on it and get back out there.
No, that's right. That's definitely one person that was a big influence with me, sticking to wrestling because, like you guys know, like if he said something, he meant it. Especially, he was two different characters. If he was in school, he was moderate. He still would be on your ass. But if you're on the football field or in the gym, man, he's a drill sergeant, and you got to listen. And if something he ever told you didn't stick with you, no matter how old you are today, you must have really not liked him, and it's very hard to not like him.
Yeah, absolutely. Had the utmost respect for that man too, and I honestly now, if Jesse Roach was standing outside this window and yelled, I guarantee the hair would stand up on all three of our arms right now. It's like, what'd we do? Yeah,
guaranteed, man, like that. But yeah, that's one of my top 5 people from being in school that I, something that they've had said to me or told me that stuck with me till this day. I'm 35 years old and it's still stuck with me till this day.
Every one of us.
Yeah, I'll never. My greatest Jesse Roach memory, and I probably shared it on this show before, but back our junior year, and this happened quite frequently. That's why it sticks in my head so much. But if anybody out there remembers the shoots, all the defense and offense linemen have to get down in the shoots, kind of at the beginning of practice and try and push each other out and see who could win.
I know where you're going.
Now, my junior year, we had an All-American on our team. We were a crap team, but we had Jacob Gibson, who went on to play at Tech, and he was a monster. Nobody wanted to go and, the biggest guys on the team, Jacob would just push around like it was. They just had it in them. And so, me, you see me right here. I'm 5'11", if I'm lucky. 230 pounds. I'm about the same size I was in high school, and I was a defensive lineman in the interior line, and I started. So Jacob would be over there in the chutes, and I would try and always avoid Jacob in the chutes, mainly because it was a size difference.
Yeah, he was a brute, man. I remember watching him play. Like he was big.
Yeah. Now Bodine over here, if you can tell, for anybody not listening, is like 6'6", almost 300 pounds. He's not fat by any means, but he's just a monster. He is comparable to Jacob. We would get down in them chutes, and I'd just be standing there chewing on my mouthpiece, and Bodine would be down in the chutes with Jacob. And you'd hear that voice, Jesse Roach, down. Sit. Whoa, stop. He'd walk over to Bodine, he'd say, you, out of here. And he'd look over at me standing off on the side, you, get in here. I'm like, what? I said, Jacob is 6 inches taller than me. He's 2. What? And then, of course, he'd be standing over top of you. Billy Riddle, if you don't push Jacob Gibson out of these chutes, your position's mine on Friday. You ain't never going to start a game again. And, of course, he said hike, and Jake knocked me 12 feet backwards because, everybody, you didn't feel bad about it because he was doing it to everybody.
It was like getting hit by a moving cinder block wall. It was like you couldn't move him, but it was like it had its solid hit. You could feel the sting, and then it pushed back against you. It's like, what am I going to do to this?
I think his senior year, he had something like 130 tackles, and they were running away from him every single play. He'd come from the other side of the field, and he was a linebacker, too, at 6'5", for whatever reason. I don't know. I feel like they would put him in the interior. He should have been starting over me. You should have been starting over me. Josh Willis should have been starting over me. Everybody should have been starting. But,
I think that, like mid-year, they moved Jacob to the interior linebacker position just because we were weak in that spot.
But like once again, you and Josh, y'all didn't play your whole entire life. So when you start late, you really
we just didn't have the tenacity that everybody else did.
I didn't either. Looking back on it,
Gibson, he was just a different breed. I remember meeting him for the first time, and I was like, "Is this Goliath? Because this is a big dude, man." Like, because I met him when I was in I think I was a 6th grader when I went to a high school game for the first time, and meeting him after a game, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is a big dude, man. And
you didn't want to mess with. Yeah.
You didn't want to make him mad, and he was emotional about football, and we could tell a story off the air. I ain't gonna share that one on there, but that's tenacious. And
it's not an awful story. He was right. We had just got
he was right.
mollywopped. I mean, mollywopped by Amherst County. I mean, it was like 62-0. I think they scored more points on us that game than we scored all season long. And, of course, people were back on the bus, and this is his senior year. You know, it meant a lot to him. And everybody's laughing and joking and carrying on, and he wasn't having none of it. I tell you what, that bus, I ain't going to say what he said, that bus stayed quiet the rest of the ride home, though. Yeah. I mean, because he was like that.
And some things got broke.
I can only imagine.
But see, that's where I'm coming, and I see that in you, because we've been talking to you for about, 30 or 40 minutes here since you got here. And we look at your sport and we look at the video. You've got this ferocious, animal side to you when you're out there in the ring. But here you're like, we got to move the mic around because you're so soft-spoken and mild-mannered. It's like, we're like, man, we got to turn the volume up. We're thinking like, I would think you'd come in like Hulk Hogan and we'd have to move the mic across the room because we would hear you. But no, the truth is you're just so mild-mannered and together. It's just...
Yeah, man, I've always been like this, man. Like, I've never seen a point to be, what can we call it these days, an asshole outside of fighting. I'm super humbled, and, I come from humble beginnings. And like I said, I'm from here. I didn't grow up the best. I was somewhat of a troublemaker, but, learning and having...
You're in good company.
Yeah. Learning and having coaches and, older people to hang around with, and, learning lessons from getting in trouble and also wrestling, man, it just changed who I was. Trust me, before I got to 8th grade, I was probably like one of the most ferocious people ever. I was super loud because I just didn't care then. But, like I said, we all got those Coach Roach stories, and, that they kind of settled with me, and, it humbled me. And, I became very soft-spoken because when, like I said, when I was loud and obnoxious, that's when I would get in trouble. But, things have stuck with me to this day, and, I'm just humble in some ways, but when I get in my element, that's when things change. You feel what I'm saying?
Focus that anger, or not anger. It's not anger. It's that tenacity. I like tenacity or
energy.
Well,
that's a sign. That's a sign of an intelligent person. That's somebody that can control their emotions and let it out when they need it to. Hell, even I got problems sometimes with my emotions. I get ticked off and I see red, and I got to walk things back, to be able to have that. And that's probably super big when it comes to fighting too. You got to be able to keep your composure and keep your calm, because you're getting punched in the face, and you got to be able to know how to react and do all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, for sure, man. Cause like when I first started, taking it back, when I first started wrestling, I used to be like, when those guys would dump me on my head and I was getting my butt whooped at practice, I used to be so mad and want to start fighting them right then and there. Even though I had watched it, actually doing it was different. I would be so mad, and a couple of times the coaches would be talking to me and I just look at them and walk off the mat or something. And even when I first started fighting, I was still at that stage of having an anger problem, and I would fight mad. And I quickly learned you cannot fight mad in the sport of mixed martial arts. You got to learn how to turn your switch on and off, even if you're, not fighting or anything. But, it took me up to 5 fights to be able to start controlling my anger when fighting and keeping it off at all times.
Well, I don't think maybe we appreciate quite as much, when you talk about your upbringing around here in Franklin County. I mean, we can talk here for a minute about the Franklin County wrestling program, because when we were coming up, I don't know how good they've been since we've left, but I know the Law Gym used to be covered in banners. Yeah. Nothing. I mean, the entire gym is dedicated to wrestling, and nothing but wrestling banners, championships, all state. Every single year, big orange. And the one thing that sucked about Franklin County is no matter how good you were, Grundy was always better. Grundy is middle of nowhere, Southwest Virginia, coal mining town. Oh, man. An hour away from anything, and somehow, some way, you get the best wrestlers in the country year in and year out. It's mind-boggling how many
least welcoming town.
Back then, it was quite a bit. Yeah,
there was a lot of things going on there, and Did y'all know a guy that wrestled there named Albert Childress?
I remember the name.
But yeah, he's another a Gibson. He was a big giant, All-American, probably the best wrestler in the country. That was probably, at that point in time, that was probably the biggest dude I've ever seen in my life as a high schooler besides Gibson. Like, that dude was huge. And he's very soft-spoken, though. Like, I thought he would be, you know, a jerk. But he's probably the biggest soft-spoken dudes ever. But he was just big and he just looked mean. But, yeah, Grundy, man, that was one of those type of places, man. Every year that we went, coaches always made sure we were all together at all times. Do not walk off nowhere. Don't get... You know, I think it was right there when they first got like a Waffle House or something there. And he's like, we're going in, get what we got, we're going to eat, and we're getting out of here, going back to the hotel. And if things are still rowdy there, we're getting on the bus and going home. Like, literally my senior year is the first year that Frank County ever beat Grundy at their tournament, and we won it. The second we got that trophy.
Y'all won the Skeens tournament?
Yes.
Shoot.
Yeah, we got the trophy, and you know how the Grundy crowd is. When they get the yelling, wave, 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 it's time to go.
So, you get the trophy and got the hell out of there.
Yeah, as soon as we got that trophy, man, we were on the bus within 10 minutes. We made sure everybody was together because, like y'all know, man, that Grundy crowd is a different breed.
Yeah.
Man. It's a middle of nowhere, and that also was around the time when they got their first Walmart, which was crazy.
Oh yeah,
that'll bring out the crazies.
It's the only 2-story Walmart in the entire country.
Really?
Yeah, it's got 2 levels because they didn't have enough space to build it and the parking lot, so it has to have a parking garage.
I did not know that.
I mean, people come around from everywhere.
It's the only thing they got.
Yeah, and I mean, and what we're alluding to here, I mean, I don't think it's quite what it used to be. A lot of the reason they have the Appalachian School all down there now, and they have the pharmacy school and stuff, and I think that the town has grown up quite a bit.
Yeah,
but I mean, we can say, but 20 years ago, I mean, cut the bare bones. If you were a black person, you didn't want to be there anytime after dark or anywhere around anybody that wasn't. It was just the way of it, and I don't think it's necessarily because everybody up there was just backwoods, ass rednecks or anything. I just think they didn't know anybody else. They didn't know black people. They didn't know Mexican people. They didn't know brown people. Nowhere else. They just knew what they knew and from what they'd heard. And of course, you know how talk gets and stuff like this. You get a bad idea of somebody for something. And next thing you know, it's just, it was strange. I mean, did there not? I swear there used to be a sign going in that town that said, "Don't let the sun go down on you."
Around 2004, that was the first time I ever went there. That sign was still there.
For anybody that doesn't know, it said N-word.
No N-words allowed.
Yeah, don't let the sun go down on you in Grundy, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. And like the first time I ever went there and seen that sign, I was like, wow, what are we doing here?
It's like, what?
And they, that bridge going in there was something hanging off of that. And, they had another sign beside that, it was very obstructive because it had some drawings and some foul words on it. And, when we got to the tournament, oh God, it was just different.
I can't imagine being in your shoes going into that environment. I can't even put it into perspective. And then winning on top of it.
Oh man, the first time I went there, I was a freshman in high school, so I went there and I got my ass whooped, and walking out on my very last match, I guess I had wrestled somebody's son, and they were like, "N-words suck, you can't wrestle, get out of here." And I was like, wow, that was still part of my phase of learning to grow up and let stuff go. And I happened to react, and here comes my coach, jerks me up and it's like, "Go to the bus now." And that was one of my defining moments there. And then when I went there again my junior, because we didn't go my sophomore year because there was some things that happened there my sophomore year, and they still had the tournament, but not as many teams went because there was some, like I said, there was some things going on there that our coach and I guess the other teams didn't want to put nobody in danger. And we went back my junior year in high school, and we end up getting second place, and Grundy won first place, and doing the ceremony there. Yeah, that was definitely wild in itself, and almost lost it then. But like I said, I had grown up a little bit between my freshman year and junior year, and it was wild.
But that's got to be one of those moments now, looking back on, you take a lot of pride in showing them. It's like, now let me get out of here.
Yeah. I almost wonder, and I'm saying this, and I'm not, I'm not defending anything or defending any actions, because every situation is different. Just from my experiences up in Grundy and all the people I've ever met from Grundy, they are typically the nicest, most down-to-earth people you've ever met in your entire life. Like you were talking about Albert being soft-spoken and whatnot. I know a bunch of guys at school, and it's not – I almost wonder if they don't just do that as a mental thing, just to screw with anybody. I mean, it would be wild if they took it that – because they do take their wrestling seriously. If they just took it that seriously, it's all an intimidation factor. I know some people up there are like that, but it's not like the town has Klan rallies going through the middle of it. It's not, it's really not. It's weird. Everybody up there is super nice, but when it comes to the wrestling,
it's definitely when it comes. It could be football season or basketball, and it's moderate. But when it comes to wrestling, there, boy, you better.
I think it's one of those things where they just scream whatever they're going to scream at you that they think's going to hurt you the most, because they want to get in your head and they want to get underneath your skin. I'll never forget it. You remember Kevin Taylor?
I do.
Okay, I don't know if you knew Kevin or not. He graduated in 2001, so if you 6th or 7th grade, he'd have been a senior up there wrestling. KT had the locks. I mean, massive upper body.
He was a close friend of ours.
Looked like he was riding around on a chicken though. Mm-hmm. Yeah, love KT. He was defensive end when I was a defensive tackle in high school. The next year we go away to college, and of course it was a senior year. He come down to Emory for a recruiting trip. Come down there and they stayed in our room for football and everything, and we all hung out. And he's like, "Man, let's go to Grundy tonight." I looked at him because Kevin's black. Kevin, if anybody don't know Kevin, I looked at him. I said, "What?" He said, "Man, let's go up to Grundy tonight." I said, "Why in the hell would you want to go to Grundy tonight?" He said, "Man, there's this girl up." I said, "Stop it." Hell no. I mean, I love you. Don't get me wrong. I love you. But, Kevin, this is Grundy. You wrestled. You understand what you were asking me. Nah, man, it's going to be cool. It's going to be good. I went with him. I decided to do it. I said, all right, then. I don't know why, because he was going to go by. And he was like, man, I mean, I know and of course, a lot of wrestlers he wrestled with from Grundy, he knew them, was friends with them. They were all pretty cool and stuff. And I kept trying to remind him, I'm like, Kevin, I get that. I get the guys that wrestle, get along with you, and y'all are buddies and stuff. And I have no doubt, but they're not the ones I'm worried about. It's their parents and their uncles and their cousins. And you trying to go to the middle of Grundy on a date with a white girl to the movie theater. Everybody in town is going to be there. Do you understand? They're going to kill me too. They don't care. They're going to kill me too. I don't care if I'm white. Oh, you with him? Don't make a difference. I ended up walking 20 feet behind him the entire night. That way, if he got jumped or something from behind, I could at least either run or make a move or help or something like that. Because if I was beside him, fortunately enough, nothing bad ever happened, which, kind of gave me a little bit of ease, made me realize that maybe it's not quite as bad as some people would think, but either way, it's
the sign still makes you think.
Yeah, it still did, and I did it with him, and that was one of the most. I was more nervous going to Grundy with a black guy, taking a white girl out on a date, and to beat it all, the movie they saw was about a white chick hooking up with a black dude. That was, you know what I mean?
They showed that. Okay,
yeah, that it was. I can't remember the name. Some dancing movie or something.
Save the last.
There you go. That's the one. That's the one. I was like, Kevin, man, you trying to manifest some shit here, man. I mean, this is almost like a spit in the face to him. It's like, yeah, I'm coming into town. I'm gonna take your girl and I'm gonna take her out to but nothing happened. We had a good time, and I'm alive to talk about it. So
where is Kevin? I
ain't seen him since I got home from overseas or since before I left. I've tried to reach out to him a few times, but I don't know where he's at. I thought he was in Roanoke, but
I haven't heard hide nor hair of that name. Other than we have old stories.
Yeah.
Kevin Taylor, if you're out there and you can hear us, holler at us, man.
Yeah, I love KT. That was my boy. I remember we was down at the beach with him that one time.
Here we go.
I'll tell this story to you. It was down at the beach. Now, mind you, I done already described Kevin. He's built like a brick shithouse, kind of like Brian is here.
He's wiry and hyper, too. Kevin had a lot of energy.
And we were all down at the beach riding around, and we stayed at the Pirate Land, which was a quote-unquote family campground. Which, whatever, there's all kinds of people that go there that aren't families, and we weren't any different. And people were driving around. There's about 7 of us there, and I don't know who all it was on a golf cart with a video camera, because back then a video camera was the thing. Now
phones,
everybody's got the phone, and I guess some chick just happened to flash the camera. Whatever, I mean, it happens at the beach, no big deal. Next day, in the morning, here comes security and some little high-tempered dad or whatever, just fuming. And all the security and them kept saying, where's that colored boy at? Where's that colored boy? And of course, well, we're all colored here, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about, you asshole. What do you do? You want you just be a little bit more specific? Where's the black guy at? I said, well, he's inside. What do you want with him? Well, I heard he filmed a girl last night who, pulled up her shirt or whatever, and they done called the cops on her. Now, the girl was like a teenager. She was younger, but nobody asked her to do it, apparently. Nobody forced her to. They were just driving, and she just happened to do it while they were driving. They kept on going. They didn't holler at her. They didn't meet her, nothing. So they called the cops. The cops come and confiscate our, thing, our tape, and then, and that dad is fuming, walking back and forth. Where's he at? I want him out here. Finally, we said, all right, well, there's 6 of us, Dad, and there's 1 of you, and we're going to go bring the 7th out here right now, which is KT. So we can knock on the door, tell him to come out here, and he walks out the door with this, what the hell look on us, what's going on. Clue. And that dad, when he saw him walk out in that wife beater, he just stopped and turned around and walked the other direction. So he said, I don't want none of him at all. And they ended up kicking us out of the campground that day and didn't give us our refund back for no reason other than saying, well, we weren't a family. Because even the cops looked at the tape like, y'all didn't do anything wrong. We're going to have to take it, but y'all didn't do anything wrong. Y'all were just driving down the road and she did it. And they kicked us out of there and stuff. So I love KT, man. That was I had some good times with that dude, man. I hope he is out there. But
yeah, I hope he's listening. I'd love to get back in touch with him. But anyways, we got all
the wrestling. Let's wrestle.
Yeah, Franklin, back to Brian's career.
Franklin County, let's talk about how important the wrestling program is. I mean, the things that taught him. Even today, you got David Ferguson out there. I don't know if the Menifee boys are still helping out, but
I think they are still helping out, man. That's them with Ferguson, man. I think that is awesome, and it's been a long time coming. That is great to get the program because those guys have been through the program, seen the program throughout the years. Those guys even came back to help out when I was in high school still, and that to me was like everything because those guys were like basically like my big brothers in high school, man, coming to when they would come back from school or doing whatever they were doing to come back and help us at wrestling practice. That was awesome. And I'm gonna go ahead and point it out if whenever they listen to this when I post it on Facebook, I'm the only one to ever take both of them down in the same year.
Hold on, the Menifee twins?
Yes, both of them at the Big Orange Wrestling Tournament in the back gym. And I'm still waiting on my pair of wrestling shoes.
I'm going to text David Ferguson tonight about this, too.
What if Alan Temple still helps out?
I don't think so.
I love that man. I still see him around town, and he's like recruiting wrestlers.
We saw Ian last night. His son, Ian was at the draft. He's in our league now.
Alan Temple. He would recruit everybody. I mean, if you was big... If you was 6 years graduated high school, he was trying to get you on the wrestling team.
Now, I'll say this. Wrestling was probably the only sport in Franklin County, period, that didn't involve politics because wrestling is whoever is best. If you come out there and your parents are all in the coach's face, that was not going to work. Your kid was not getting no type of special treatment when it came to wrestling. It was whoever was better, who was, whoever.
Y'all had to wrestle. You had to wrestle off to see who went and traveled, didn't you?
Yeah, and I remember several times, we would have parents like that my kid deserves to be here, and here, and we would have to close down wrestle offs with no parents allowed or none of that at the gym, just so everybody could do what they had to do to see who was going to be in it. We did wrestle offs once or maybe twice a week to see who would be in the lineup for that weekend. I think that was like the best thing ever because, like I said, it's probably the only sport in Franklin County that politics didn't
You're absolutely
try to take
right.
over, man. And you got the real deal with the wrestling team. If the rest of the sports in Franklin County were like that, I think there would have been a whole lot more championships in other sports than there is. Because still to this day, we're in 2022, and the Franklin County High School wrestling team is still the winningest program in Franklin County High School history. No matter if it's wins, district titles, regional titles, having so many people go to states, all American wise, kids going to D1, D2 schools. I mean, winning this program in the history of the school that doesn't get the respect it deserves.
Oh yeah, I remember when we were in school. I don't know what it was after what it is now, but we had so many kids on the wrestling team that you had a varsity A team. Mm-hmm. Then you had a varsity B team that would still go out and compete against other schools and win. Like, this was just our B squad. And then you had a JV squad. So you might have had upwards of 70 or 80 wrestlers every single year. And in hindsight, I kind of wish I would have went out, but too much running in wrestling. I did not have the, in football, I could be a fat body lineman and not run that much and get away with it.
We would see the I don't know if they still allow this, but we would see the wrestlers running. We would be in gym and the wrestlers would be cutting weight wearing fireman outfits. Like
the Tequila days, man, like that
yes.
was wild. Like, if you had him as a gym teacher, you might as well consider yourself a wrestler. Even though you didn't wrestle for him as a team, but if you got in his gym class, you were technically a wrestler because you were going to do the same thing that they did at wrestling practice. He was going to make sure you learned how to wrestle.
That's why I didn't like Conklin. I loved Doug Conklin as a health teacher and a PE coach, other than the fact that Conklin was a basketball coach and he loved to run. So if you were in his class, you were running every single day. That's why Slough was my favorite, because Slough was a baseball coach. Only people he was making run polls was Thomas Meeks, so it didn't really matter.
That's because he was in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, all the daggone time.
I love Coach Slough, man. That's definitely one of those coaches that he's very soft spoken, but if he got mad and you had to hear his voice at the tires, you better had listen, because like I said, Coach Slough's a Franklin County native.
Yep.
Very, very good at football and baseball, and he's one of those people you had to respect.
Good dude,
because he wouldn't go off on you too many times, but if he did go off, you best get out of his way and listen. So,
Franklin County missed the boat on Jamie Harless.
Mm-hmm. I love Coach Harless. Like
they really did. Now they got a great coach. The guy they got in there now is an awesome dude, and I would love to have some time in here with him on the podcast.
Is it Edwards?
Yeah, it's his mentality. It's different. Mm-hmm. He wants more than just football. He wants you eating right. He wants you mentally doing things. It's an entire mentality that he brings forth, not just football. It's your entire life. He wants you to just keep, it's things he wants you to go through.
Structure. He's trying to bring structure.
It's so different that he's brought to the program that they didn't have before. It was just a coach before. Now you've got a guy that loves the kids, and having him on, I'd love for you to meet him, Billy. He's a good dude.
Yeah, we can get him on here sometime.
But that Franklin County, prior to that, when Billy Miles,
I love Coach Miles.
I mean, he didn't stay long, 4 or 5 years, and then
he couldn't. I mean, he was up there in age.
Yeah.
I mean, this was
he left his final year. He retired right after my junior football season. I talk to him every once in a blue moon now, and he always comments on my stuff on Facebook and likes my stuff. I have yet to go to his restaurant.
I was thinking about it.
Hold on. Where he's got a restaurant?
Yeah, he's got a restaurant in Salem. It's called Billy's.
Is it Tavern? Is it?
I think so. I'm gonna have to go. So, Coach Miles, I know you're gonna listen to this, so don't hold me to it. I'm coming in soon.
Is it Billy?
I'm gonna look it up right now because I know there's a Billy's in downtown, but that's not his.
It's not the
no,
same one.
It's definitely in Salem, but like I said, he was one of those coaches too, man. Like that said something to me that definitely helped me.
And he did a lot for the program.
He turned the whole program around.
Yeah, and showed that it could be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Is it off of route up there off 311 or
I think it's in the middle of Salem. I think
maybe it is. Maybe I'm visioning the wrong place for it. I was thinking it was where you go
Billy's
up to Catawba.
Barn.
Billy's Barn. There you go.
Oh, Billy's Barn.
Oh, that place is closed down. If I'm not mistaken, unless you got a new location. The old location used to be right there where you turn up to go to Catawba on 311.
That's what I'm thinking of.
And that place is closed down now. Now he might have a new place, maybe a new location.
It's just permanently closed.
Wow, I didn't realize that was his place. That's a big place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should be off Thompson. Thompson Memorial. I missed that place. Yeah, it's right off the interstate on I think exit 141. You get right off there, you hook a right, and you go down that way, and you can head left or head right down there at the bottom of the hill to go to Catawba, up there to the home place, or you keep going straight right there to the intersection, and Billy's Barn was right there on the right. Yeah. It hadn't been open for a few years.
But yeah, another thing too, though, like you had mentioned a few moments ago, Frank County really missed out on Jamie Harless. I think that would after Coach Miles left, I think that would have been the best thing to happen because he what came up through with Billy Miles, he knew the program. Probably one of the best defensive coordinators I've ever seen in my life.
Yep.
Like if you go through the Jamie Harless defense, you had to be that special kind of a kid because he was one of those coaches. Politics did not matter to him either.
No.
Politics, you can take that, put it in a box and throw that out the window with him because he was one of those coaches that wasn't soft spoken. He gonna tell you how it is, and he gonna tell you to your face. He gonna tell everybody around you to their face, and he was an awesome guy. He was, like I said, another one of those people. If he said something, you definitely got to listen.
And truth be known, that may have been the reason he didn't get the job.
Yeah, because of politics.
Yep. They knew that he wasn't going to play the political favorites, and he didn't get it with the people that were making the calls back then.
Well, you know where Harless went to school at, don't you?
I don't know where he went to.
Henry.
He did.
That's right. He did.
Defensive Player of the Year, All-American.
He was actually in D3. It happens very rarely, but in D3 he was actually, if I'm not mistaken, because I was down there at Emory maybe the year after he left, or because I always talked about him because I wasn't far in behind him, and he said if he'd have been another inch or two taller, he'd have been in the pros. Yeah, he was that good. I mean, he was just so short. And he wasn't that short. He was like 6'1", maybe 6'2", but he's a defensive lineman, and they were looking for 6'4", 6'5", or something. I'm pretty sure he got talked to by the scouts.
Yeah, he worked.
He was that good.
The Dallas Cowboys, and they told him that he was too short.
Yeah,
he was a couple inches too short, but he's the best defensive player in the country at one point. That's crazy.
I guess they want the height on the guys to make sure they get their hands up on passing plays.
Yeah, especially.
I would have loved to have seen him even at him being 6'1", 6'2", and them trimming him up and him playing a middle or outside linebacker.
Oh, for real? Yeah.
Because man, those guys that what he put them through at football practice, it was like they were already in the pros, man, and. Several guys that I played with, they end up going to Division I, Division II schools. And like I said, that's one of those guys. He was a genius on the defense. And now that he's at Lord Botetourt, he's still a great football coach.
And he took a program in Lord Botetourt that was pretty much similar to Franklin County's as far as, success. Mm-hmm. Look at them now. I mean,
those guys are animals down there.
Yes.
They got some nice players down there.
And he's got a program built.
Yeah, I always liked Harless. I thought he was a
good guy.
Was a good coach, a good down-to-earth person, and somebody that could relate to the kids. I couldn't. But, it happens so often you don't even think about it. You think about somebody like that, and here at Frank County, you probably name off 20 different coaches that should have stuck around.
Yeah.
And you can do that at every single other school we got, too.
Do you remember that old guy that came in? It was like your senior year. He came
32 smash. 32 smash. Coach McGregor, 32 smash.
I couldn't remember his name, but that's the only thing he could say was 32 smash.
And he was a coach on
Boston
the Falcons.
College?
He was a coach on the Falcons. He was a coach on Boston College when they beat Notre Dame in '93, which was a huge upset back in the day. And back in, that was all it was. Nowadays App State can go in and beat Michigan any day of the week. It's just, but back then that did not happen. You know what I mean? It did not happen.
We need Nathan Angle to talk about it.
Oh God! So McGregor, he probably knew what he was talking about. 32 smash.
We just didn't. We didn't have the players to smash.
No, we didn't. And then we didn't. And then you throw Dan Hodges on the other side of the ball. Our 11th grade football season consisted of us getting the shit kicked out of us by a team, and the following week learning the offense that just beat the hell out of us, and then getting the shit beat out of us the next week. We would learn a new offense every single.
We did.
How? Like we would literally go from a running team one week and be like, oh, well, hell, this team just did the run and gun and beat the Botetourt just did the run and gun and beat the shit out of us. Let's go to Amherst next week. They're only ranked 3rd in the state. Let's do a run and gun with them. We ain't never done before.
We literally, like game 5 or 6 of the season, brought in shotgun offense. We had to change centers. We played 5 homecoming games that year, and we only had 1 at home. I'm just going to tell you that much. I mean, people were scheduling us first game of the season for homecoming. It was like, damn, Lowell Park in early September, y'all doing homecoming already? Y'all the only win we going to get this year, so we got to, I mean, that's how it was. And it's not that we had bad athletes. If Billy Miles showed us anything, Franklin County, it is a massive school. There is no reason with the amount of kids we have in this school that the athletic program in every single facet, that's football, baseball, basketball, badminton, underwater, freaking basket weaving, Franklin County should have the best anywhere. Not to mention that we're not just a big school, we're a diverse school. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've got big corn-fed country boys. We got dudes that can fly. I mean, we've got guys with arms. Yeah. It's like, we should be, you ought to be able to have your pick of your athletes.
You should, but for some reason, it's just never been like that. I mean, we didn't have Sandlot growing up. Nope. We didn't actually experience organized football until the 10th grade, because in 8th grade it was just intramural, which was fine and dandy, but you're playing against the same guys. You're not getting that cohesion. Salem, them boys start playing when they're 5 years old, and they play until they're in high school. We didn't play any Sandlot. We get to middle school when it's intramural. Then we get to 9th grade, and Dan Hodges has the lineman out there shanking punts all day long. We get that, we finish 1-7. Then our JV year, we finally get, for the first time in our life, we get structure. And actually, our JV year, we had a winning record. We had Coach Fulton, and we had Jesse Roach, and whoever else. We went out there, and we had a team. And, of course, you get to varsity next year, and all the politics come back out, and we go back to crap again. But
yeah, that's right. Because the 9th grade team was good. Like, the 9th grade team was a solid team. They get to varsity, and they're terrible. It didn't make any sense. You was playing against the same team. I mean, it was the same guys playing against the same people they played with before. We should be competitive.
Yeah, we should be like the all-stars. But, once you get to varsity,
they bring in politics.
It comes to politics. And, and it's crazy how everyone that played sports here in Franklin County knows that.
Yep.
There's not one person who's been through the Franklin County system that does not know that.
Yep, it's 100%.
And it's crazy. Everybody's story is different but similar at the same time because, even though we've all had, different coaches, when you get to that one level in Franklin County High School, the politics kick in because it's the same people you've been playing against your whole life. But as soon as you get to varsity, no.
It's politics.
It's politics and who's ever calling the shots. I still don't know who was calling those shots, but whoever was calling the shots, they were calling the shots. And a lot of sports in Franklin County, like I said.
And that discourages, and that probably does discourage a lot of kids. Plus, at the same time, you've got guys out there that could play, but they're more interested in farming or hunting or doing stuff. They've got Brian and Jason Altus, if them boys would have played football back, you're talking about D1 athletes right there if they wanted to do it. Everybody. So many players, so many people that just farmed all the time, that did this or this or this, and they'd have been, but it's just hard to get them to come out and do it. It's hard to get a commitment anymore these days with kids too, because attention spans are so short. And football. Honestly, I loved football growing up. I loved it. I would give anything to go back on the field. But I'm not so sure I even want my kid to play. Mainly because there is a lot of brain mesh going on there. You are getting hit hard. There's a lot of concussions. You can probably talk about this too, being in the fighting world. There was a reason Muhammad Ali was stuttering bad at the end of his life. It's because he took a lot of hits. A lot of hits that he shouldn't have taken, but him being, the greatest of all time is just what somebody once told me is you take the chance of what you want to do, and it has its goods and its bads, but this is the price you pay for it, being able to do what you dream to do and what you do to be successful, even if you're not successful in it. And you're training your ass off. This is what you want to do, and when you get older, you're just going to suffer the after effects with it.
he paid the price. I mean, his family, he paid the price, died early, and had to, had some bad quality of life.
Yeah, well, I mean, he died in his 70s, 80s, I believe. I mean, he made it.
Yeah,
but it's still kind of crazy to think about, though, because we brought this up not too long ago with Paul Radford. It's like these guys we've had on the show that used to race back in the day when essentially they were sitting on a bench seat and a lap belt, taking hard hits into the wall, flipping cars, hard hits to the head. I mean, hell, Paul went out there at Daytona. I had to tell him to come in. They black flagged him because he didn't have a damn helmet on at Daytona. Yeah. I mean, you're a 2.5 mile track, 180 miles an hour, and I mean, but they're all sharp as all get out. So you can only imagine taking those hits to the head.
This guy's sharp as a tack, 90 years old. We talking to him. He wrecked at Callaway, and his eyeball fell out and was hanging on his cheek, and they had to put it back in.
Wow.
It's still sharp as a tack, but then, and that's what I kind of talk about with the fighting aspect of it. We'll jump into that because I want to start talking about some badass fighters and stuff. Where did you get your college scholarship to?
I ended up going to West Virginia Tech, a sister school of WVU in Montgomery, West Virginia. And, I didn't, like I said, when I first got to high school, I was still rough around the edges. I didn't care about going to college. My thing was, in order for me to get away from Franklin County, I got to go to the military. And, that's what I wanted to do. Even though I was getting in trouble and still rough around the edges, my thing was I'm going to go to VMI, and then from there, I want to go to the military. But if that doesn't work, I've always had a plan. If that didn't work, I want to go straight to the military. That was my thing. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to do nothing else but that. I didn't care about sports, none of that. Or I didn't even care about going to school at that point. But
you had a plan, though. That's what's.
I had a plan because, like I said, growing up, I grew up around the Menifees, and I seen their plan. Those were the guys who actually gave me the type of mindset to have a plan. And like I said, I didn't grow up in the best of situations. I wasn't extremely poor or anything, but my mom was a single mother taking care of me and my brother. So, she had to do it, work a couple jobs to take care of us. But at the same point in time, that, like I said, those guys gave me a game plan to something I wanted to do. And plus, I looked up to my older cousins who were going into the military. So that gave me the mindset that, even though I'm getting in a lot of trouble, I still want to go to the military. So that was my thing. And, I received my first college letter the end of my sophomore year in high school, because at that point, I became a better wrestler. I got to wrestle on varsity as a freshman, which was a big deal to a few people, but it was an awesome deal to me because, Franklin County, like I said, Franklin County high school wrestling team is the winningest program in the school. And if you made the A team, the starting team, you had to be good, because that's when the politics went out the window and it was the best of the best. And, like he was saying earlier, there were, 70, 80 people in the gym. So you had to have an A team, a B team, sometimes a C team and a JV team. And, making the main squad was like my awakening. And, my sophomore year in high school, I peaked. And, I started winning a lot of matches. I beat a couple All-Americans. I beat a couple guys that were ranked in the state. Nobody even knew who I was at that point because, that I don't know if y'all know about the VMI wrestling camp that Frank County went to like every year. It started with Kahila. He would take the guys there to.
I do.
I've heard, yeah.
To put them against some of those college guys and, the
I don't know the specifics, but I remember there was something.
Yeah, the higher ranked high schools in the state of Virginia would come there, and it'd be like a super big scrimmage. And going there, that's when people started noticing me because, like I said, I beat some guys that were some All-Americans and state placers and national qualifying guys. And like I said, I peaked my sophomore year, and when that first letter came, they sent it to my coach at the time, Emmanuel Brown, because he was the successor of Coach Kahila, and he pulled me into the office. And me being me at that time, when he pulled me into the office, I'm thinking, oh man, he's about to chew my ass, because earlier in the year, before like I got super close with him, I faced one of those guys that was nationally ranked, state ranked, and All-American. And, I was beating him pretty bad in the match. And then he caught me in something and beat me. And I still had anger issues then. And I took my headgear off and threw it in the crowd. So I already knew that was a mistake. I seen my mama coming first. So I was like, oh, man, I'm in trouble. So I knew she was going to jerk me up. But, the second I got in the locker room, I didn't know Coach Brown was behind me. And, he jerked me up, and my mom sat there, gave him all the respect that she needed to give him, and let him be that figure in my life to straighten me up at that moment. And he said what he said to me, and that still sticks with me today. But going into his office that day when he called me in there, when that first letter came after my sophomore season was done, he's like, look, I know you've had coaches tell you before that, wrestling can take you away from here, but, I got this letter for you. Here's the first one. And it was crazy. The first letter was actually from VMI, and that I was like, wow, that's crazy. You
were like, done.
Yeah. Like
where do I sign?
No, not necessarily because, like I said, it was the first one, and I didn't know nothing about, the college recruitment or none of that back then. I just knew that I had got my first college letter from a college that, I've heard of, and that was my plan to go to so I can go to the military after that. And, we got in the office, he explained it to me, told me what was going on, and he told me if I didn't straighten up and stop getting in trouble and stuff, that this would just, go out the window and it'd be done, and you'd have to find another way to be able to do what you want in life. And, after that first letter, here comes 3 more letters. Got one from Virginia Tech, got one from UVA, got one from North Carolina, all in that same year. And, we had the same talk every time going into his office. You got to straighten up. And, like I said, sophomore year, I still, shaky around the edges. And by the time my junior year came, I was like, that trouble stuff, I got to get rid of this or I'm going to be stuck. I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. And, here comes, I'm in football season, because, coaches always told me, Coach Roach, football and wrestling go hand in hand. Wrestling will make you better in football, and football will make you better in wrestling. And
absolutely.
And I till this day, I believe everything he said because it helped. And, I was in football season, and, I would see Coach Brown because he was the HVAC teacher then. And, I got a letter for you. Or they would, at that point in time, they would send it to my house. I lived in Glade Hill at the time. We had just moved to the farm, and farm life became my life, having to wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to go help feed the horses and the cows and stuff. And that honestly was one way to.
That's a good thing too.
That'll humble the hell out of you. Yeah.
Straighten me up because, my stepfather till this day, almost 70 years old, still moving around like he's a 20-year-old man, still working. He could have been retired a long time ago, but he's one of those old school cats. He's been working since he was in like 3rd grade, so he don't know when to stop. But
one of those guys that can pick a bale of hay up and just throw it clean across the field. It's like, wow.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell you, man. When I seen my stepdad do that for the first time, I thought he was superhuman because I'm pretty fit in the 9th grade, and we introduced me to picking up hay. He just picking it up, throwing it across, and I'm sitting here just struggling and crying that I have to do it because
you're a wrestler and football player. You got to be able to throw that. Yeah. No.
So around that time, you were probably. This is a little off subject, but did you ride the bus to school back in?
Yes, I rode the bus, and I hated every second of it.
You didn't by chance ever ride the bus with a guy that just happened to get off a bus one morning and kill a deer right off the bus? Is that a memory that you had?
I remember hearing about that. I also rode the bus with a guy that, before he got on the bus, he shot a deer coming across the field, left his gun right there, left the deer right there, got on the school bus, went to school that day, got off the school bus, and went and got that deer out that field when he got home.
I know, I'm not going to say his name right now, and a lot of people will know it. I will just say that we have talked about him quite a bit on this show, and he was one of my good buddies back in. And when I tell the story, you're going to know, but apparently they were riding the bus junior or senior year. I don't know why he was riding the bus that day, but so we all get to school that morning in the cafeteria, and he walks in, and his bib overalls are covered in blood. Like, what the hell did you do? Killed a deer. Okay, with your bare hands? Yep. What? Then we got to talking about it. Apparently, on the bus that morning, a deer had ran into a fence or something and broke its neck and got caught up or something. And it was going to die right there. And the bus driver that morning was like, oh my gosh, that poor, it was a lady driving on the poor thing, whatever. And what are we going to do about it? And he said, I'll end it, He gets off the bus. This is a junior or senior, mind you, with, I'm pretty sure, middle and elementary school kids on the bus. Picks up a stick and goes over and proceeds to beat the deer to death in front of the entire school bus. And then showed up that morning covered in blood. I was like, couldn't even go home and change, couldn't call somebody. Nope, just killed it right there with a stick.
Man, that's back in those days where you could actually do that. You can actually have your gun. You went to hunting with right before school in your truck and stuff. These days you can't do that.
Oh yeah, like literally in high school we would go through the parking lot and everybody had the guns mounted in their trucks.
Yeah, in the back
like
window.
Legit.
Or
like
it'd be laying on the back of a truck with a deer bleeding its ass off in the
parking lot. Yes. And we've had them. Yeah,
and nobody cared. Like now it's just.
Yeah, I remember like my senior year, I think like 24 students got sent home one day for having guns in their trucks or whatever. I think that's when they started kind of turning it around and making it where you couldn't do it. But yeah, originally, they didn't get
originally
suspended.
It was just the gun had to be mounted. Yeah. He had to be visual. It could not be concealed, and it had to be mounted on the gun rack in the cab in the window.
Couldn't be laying in the seat or in the or the back of the truck.
But he got off a bus and in front of God and everybody, beat a deer to death with a stick, and this. Anyway, so my story was kind of like yours too. The first letter I got for football was VMI, and I had no intentions, no desire, but like, well, I'll go ahead and take this recruiting trip just because. And I went up there. I was like, God, man, watch this be the only place that offers me anything. And when I left out of that place, I was like, man, I hope this place offers me something. Now, granted, when I was a kid, I really wanted the structure, and I liked the structure. They got me with the whole, 98% of graduates have a job within 6 months after graduating. Well, a lot of that's because at least half of them, if not more, are going straight to the military, so that makes it kind of easy. But VMI, it's not a requirement anymore. You don't have to go straight into the military. Now, granted, if you go to tech and join the Corps Cadets or anything like that, then you still have to do those sort of things. But VMI now, you don't. It's not mandatory that you go to the military. But I did. I liked it, and that's one place I kind of wish, in hindsight, I would have went to.
Me and you both. Like, I really, really, really wish I would have ended up going there. But me being me at that point in time, like when it was all said and done, when my senior year came, and, I've got a boatload of recruitment letters and, got to go on recruitment trips. Till this day, I have a storage bin of every single letter that I got from being recruited from 10th grade to my senior year, just to go back and look at sometimes. Sometimes I'll pull the box out and get to going through the letters, just to remain humble and not forget where I came from. But, when I got to my senior year and it was time to pick a school, and VMI sent me that last letter, I was kind of heartbroken, but I understood where they came from, because my freshman and sophomore year, I slacked off with my grades, but then I picked it up my junior and my senior year. And, they offered me a partial scholarship, which was cool. But at that point in time, me being me, I was like, I don't want a partial scholarship. I want a full ride to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because I was at that point in stage where, being a wrestler, my head was a little too above my shoulders.
No, not wrestlers.
Well, I was getting ready to ask you, how did that? What weighed your sway to go to West Virginia? Was you say West Virginia Tech or West Virginia?
Yeah, West Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
What swayed me to go there was, like I said, I got a lot of offers, and due to my grades and the way I had acted before my junior and senior year, everybody was offering me partial scholarships. Virginia Tech offered me a partial. UVA offered me a partial. A couple other big schools offered me partial scholarships, and then I got that one letter from Liberty. That was the deal breaker. That what made my choice. Like, I had 3 choices left to pick where I wanted to go. That letter from Liberty, full scholarship. I was happy. I was jumping up and down. I went there on my little weekend trip. I loved it there, but like I said, I was a wrestler, so my head was a little bit above my shoulders, and I didn't want to go to a school. One, they told me that, you know, we're going to give you a scholarship, but you probably won't enter the lineup until, you know, your junior or your senior year. And me, I had never, at that point in time, you know, I had never not been in the varsity lineup. So I was thinking a little above myself because, like I said, I was at that point in my life as a wrestler that I wasn't going to want to go to a school where I was going to have to sit out and be on the B team because I had never been on a B team when it came to wrestling. And, you know, so I still had my decision. And I was like, at one point I was like, you know what, forget it. We're going to Liberty. My mom was excited about it. We're going to Liberty. You know, they sent over all the scholarship stuff. And, you know, when it was time for me to sign, I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Let me wait out my options for a little bit longer. And, you know, the coach from West Virginia came down and, you know, he pulled me out of class. We had a long talk with me and a couple of my teammates. And, you know, he's like, you know, we're a brand new program. It's going to be a first year. And I'm going to make you a starter. I don't care who else I recruit. You're going to be a starter. And, you know, he's like, we're going to give you a full scholarship and anything else that you want, meal plan, all that good jazz. And I was like, you know what? Let me talk to my mom first, not knowing that he already called my mom and talked to her prior.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. They never talk to mama first.
Yeah, apparently he called my mom before, you know, while I was at school and before he came to recruit, to talk to me. And, you know, he had already talked to my mom, which I didn't know until I got home. And, you know, I started telling her about it. And it's like, she just looked at me and it's like, yeah, I already talked to him. So what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to go to Liberty, but I don't want to go to Liberty because I don't want to be tied down, having a curfew and not being able to start till my junior or senior year. Because, you know, at that point in time, y'all know, just like I know, the schools up north and those beach teams, those kids were different in all sports, whether it was football, basketball, baseball, or wrestling or anything. Those kids were built different than us country bred kids here. And, you know, like I said, you know, I had a decision to make and I told my mom, you know, we're going to go to West Virginia. And that was my game plan. And once I got to West Virginia, that's when the interest into mixed martial arts came, doing MMA, because I got to watch it for the first time.
Well, that's when it was becoming popular, especially talking about the mid-2000s.
Yeah, like right there within the 2006, 2007 era is when the UFC started becoming big. I knew nothing of it until one night, you know, one of my college teammates, you know, he's talking about the UFC, and I'm like, what? The UFC? What is that? I have no idea what that is. And he's like, you know, it's coming on TV. That's before they got big into pay-per-views, and it was still coming on regular TV at that point. And
that's how I remember it.
Yeah, he flipped on the fights, and I was like, man, what is this, man? They're, you know, beating each other's ass. Like, this guy's wrestling, but this guy doesn't want to wrestle with this guy. He's just standing up, striking. So what's going on here? And I was confused at first, and then the next fight that came on was Anderson Silva.
Oh, man.
Silva. And I was like his walkout, like, I was like, oh, man, I like that. I don't know him like that, but that's going to be my favorite fight. That's me not knowing how great he was at that point in time. I was like, this guy's going to be my favorite fighter. And, you know, I end up liking, you know, he made me interested in the sport by, you know, the way he walked out, the way he carried himself. He was humble but arrogant with his fighting style at the same time. He was the nice guy coming out. But as soon as he got in that cage that night and the way he started moving, I was like, yep, I think that's going to be what I do next in life. That is very interesting because, you know, after college wrestling, what can you do after wrestling in college?
Now, Anderson Silva, if you looked at him, he did not look, I mean, he was tall and slender. Mm-hmm. He did not look like what you would expect to be just a beastly UFC fighter. I mean, some of these guys you think about, like, well, he was a heavyweight, correct? Was he? Middleweight, okay. But I mean, like, you know, you see some of these smaller guys that are just massively ripped because they're a lot smaller, and then the heavyweights are just massively big. But Silva wasn't, he didn't look intimidating as the rest of the wrestlers do, or the fighters did. He got out there in that octagon, though, man, he knew how to use those legs. Yes, like his reach on his legs. He could use his legs like most people use their arms. Like his reach would just, and he caught you with that thing, it was over. I mean, I loved watching him fight because it was so different. It was finesse. He was a very finesse fighter, but he could catch you with a leg like nobody else could, and he was one of the best to ever do it. I mean, honestly.
It would take you out, and that when I first seen him, that was me not knowing who he was, his background, or nothing. But after that fight, I got on the computer and started looking him up, and that's the same era of when YouTube was getting like super, super big, and I'm like, oh, wow. Start watching his little highlights, and I'm like, yeah, this is who I'm going to like and want to do.
So if we talk about finesse fighting, that just a style, not just the rip, aren't we kind of talking about Muhammad Ali and now Floyd Mayweather per se?
Floyd Mayweather a lot. I mean, Muhammad Ali was great because he was great.
And I'm not comparing the two. I'm talking about the way they're just that style.
Floyd Mayweather was more of defense. He was, and that's why he's going to be okay until he's up in his 80s and 90s because he didn't take many punches.
Not at all.
He didn't take many punches. I'll tell you somebody else who didn't take a lot of punches, and it wasn't because he was so finesse. It was because he just beat the hell out of everybody the second they walked in the ring was Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is still sharp to this day because he didn't take too many hits. But
God, I mean, he was ripped, though. I mean, when you took a hit from Mike Tyson, you could feel it watching it on TV.
And a lot of those guys that Mike Tyson fought are the same guys that you cannot understand what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
Because he knocked them silly because he was...
He was unbelievable. Like nobody, I mean, his record, I think, ended up being 50-3. One of them, I think, was a technicality. One of them was a DQ. Like, he really only, I don't even know if he actually ever lost a fight. I mean, he might have got beat. He got beat a couple times.
Towards the end of his career, when it just wasn't in him anymore, he took some losses to, if he was still in his prime, those guys would never stood a chance. But, no, I guess that goes around.
Yeah, go back and if you watch his fights from the late 80s and early 90s, he was so fast. I mean, it is unreal how fast he was. As a heavyweight, unreal.
He was good. And if I'm not mistaken,
he was great.
And then he went to prison. And then when he came out, he was great because he went.
No, he was better before he went to prison. Okay. He was because he wasn't as famous. Granted, because when he got back from prison, he was starting his way up, and then he goes to prison. He comes back, and he's still famous after the fact. But back in the late 80s, before he went to prison, I mean, he would knock somebody out literally and get 5 more punches in before they hit the ground. Easy. But I mean, they were out. And they were falling to the ground. He was getting more punches. He would prop people back up. People would be knocked out going down, and he'd hit them back up. And he would get to hit them 5 or 6 more times because they'd still be standing there. You couldn't tell they were knocked out because his punches kept them upright. He was unreal. Please, if anybody's listening to this and you've never actually paid, because I hadn't really a lot until lately. I started going back and watching some of the fights because there's this podcast I listen to. And, it's his speed. I mean, most fights he was in didn't last more than a round. Yeah,
or a couple of those, earlier fights when, people were paying a whole lot to watch him on pay-per-view and he knocked somebody out in 20 seconds with a one-hitter.
Oh, yeah, that made it hard for him to get a fight. Really hard. Like, it was hard for somebody because nobody would want to pay that much money to go in there and watch him last no time at all. And that's what it was, fight after fight, pay-per-view, people paying, in the late 80s, early 90s, $35-$40 is a lot of money. They're paying that much and nothing. Just, I remember that. I think his first fight back from jail was Peter McNeely. Or Hurricane Peter, I think he said, he did that famous line, I'm Hurricane Peter McNeely from something Mass, and come Saturday night, I'm going to kick Tyson's ass. And I think Tyson had him down in a minute and a half or something like that. I mean, it was unreal.
And you get, like, when you were coming up, you get to watch all these fighters, that have such I like Mike Tyson, and I guess maybe not Mayweather now, but I guess so, actually. Now that I think about it, yeah, Mayweather. And although they're different sports, technically, one boxing and one, it's still an art, and you still can pick up a lot of things from them, can't you? To some extent.
Yeah, man, to a high extent. Like, with me doing mixed martial arts and boxing, I've done Muay Thai, kickboxing too, and with all those mixed together, that makes a mixed martial arts fighter, because you got to throw in your wrestling, your jiu-jitsu, your boxing, your kickboxing, and your clinch game with the wrestling and the Muay Thai, like all that stuff, and even karate. I like, because some of the former champions were karate guys, pure karate guys, and win fights like that once they learn how to do ground game stuff. But each sport is very respective in its own, and all that put together makes a more mixed martial artist. Like my first 2 years being a mixed martial artist, learning all that stuff putting together, I didn't respect each individual sport by itself. I had to grow to learn them all as a whole, because you're putting your body through this, and this. But if you're doing it, like I said, at one point after watching Mike Tyson's reign and Floyd's early days, I had no respect for boxing until I had to learn how to do mixed martial arts, and I had to go to a boxing gym for the first time and like literally watch them doing boxing, like practicing and hitting pads and stuff. And I was like, I don't think I really want to be in here, because that looks hard. Because I'm a country boy. Like, if we're gonna fight, we're gonna fight. Somebody's getting picked up, tossed on the ground, or we're just swinging wild, and somebody gets clipped, they get clipped. And seeing that like put together, and then going to start to get to know people in the area and seeing them do karate and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and stuff. And especially the thing that got me the most was jiu-jitsu and somebody kicking me in my leg for the first time.
Oh God.
Those were the determining factors of changing up my life, because that one, I've never been choked out before, because I'm a wrestler most of my life, and two, I've never been kicked by somebody, a form kick by someone, and it actually felt like my whole leg was gone. And
one boy's got some power behind them kicks.
Yeah, man, those are the two things that have actually helped me with my MMA career, learning jiu-jitsu and learning how to kick somebody. And because the first time I lost, I got choked by somebody because I didn't know what it was. I got put into something that, of course, I was still a cocky kid that wrestled. So I'm like, ain't nobody going to be able to do this to me. But that got me humbled real quick. My second fight, he put me in a chokehold after I took him down and beat the crap out of him for a whole minute. And then all of a sudden I'm in a chokehold, and just let me tap and threw up all over the place. And I was like, from that day forward, let me go ahead and learn how to do this. But like I said, at one point, I didn't respect each martial art as an individual by itself, but I had to learn that. To
so you together. So you got out of college and you start learning the martial arts, or is it something that started in college?
No, like I didn't even it interested me in college, and I told myself right then and there that I was going to do it one day. So after I left college, I dabbled in life, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself, or, what I was going to do with my life, for 2 years. And then, I just happened to just be on the internet, because I got that itch of, if I'm really going to do this fighting stuff, let me go ahead and look it up. And I don't know if you guys remember it. It used to be a promotion that they used to have at the
Rough and Rowdy.
Rough and Rowdies.
Oh God, we remember
Rough
that.
and Rowdies and the Ruckus in the Cage.
Yes.
Cage fights there. And a guy that I wrestled with in high school, y'all may know his name, Justin Dalton.
I know the name.
He was the only person around here that did it. He had talked about it, told me about it, but I didn't pay it no mind. But I got to looking up on the internet on the computer, and I seen one of his fights, and I was like, oh man, this is exciting. This is what I, looking up to want to do. And I seen that, the Ruckus in the Cage and the Rough and Rowdies, I guess it was the same promotion at that point in time. They had an event coming up in, what's it called? I forgot the name of the place, but it's Northwestern Virginia, and I seen that they had a fight coming up, so I was like, just let me sign up. I know they're not going to call me back, but at least I signed up to get the ball rolling. And, a couple hours later, the promoter called me. He's like, I got this fight lined up for you. The guy is 2-0, and I'm like, I don't care if he's 2-0. I'm a wrestler. And the guy was like, oh, okay, is that how you feel? And, he's like, I like your attitude, but, this guy comes from a great jiu-jitsu school. I was like, I don't know what jiu-jitsu is. I'm a wrestler. And, we talked for a few minutes, and he's like, I want this fight. This will be my first fight. I don't care who it is. I don't care if he's got a million fights. I wrestled in high school. I'm training at I'm going to go to a boxing gym or something and get ready for this fight. And, that's what started my journey.
You knew you had the skill set.
Yeah.
You just hadn't learned how to apply it to this world just yet.
Yeah, exactly. Because
trial by fire then, wasn't it?
I was a blind eye coming in because, like, after that phone call, I'm sitting here running through the house, doing imaginary backflips and, going off the wall. And so when I finally settled down after calling 10 million people, telling them I got my first fight and kind of threw it out there on Facebook when Facebook wasn't too popular back then. But, I put it on Facebook, then immediately I got on the computer, started looking up stuff on YouTube, and, I typed in Anderson Silva's name to look at his highlights. And, I was a big fan, still a big fan of Kimbo Slice, and start watching his backyard fights. And
you remember him, Bodine?
I remember the names, but no, I don't specifically.
He kind of looked like a modern day version of Mr. T, but maybe like Mr. T and a half. I mean, he was a monster man. And he got famous for just doing bare knuckle brawls in backyards and stuff on YouTube videos. And they'd upload it to YouTube. And eventually, he got famous enough through his YouTube videos that they gave him a spot. I want to say on the UFC Challenge or whatever, that TV show? The Ultimate Fighter. That's what it was called. He recently passed not too long ago. I think a couple of years. He actually died, but he was I'm going to try and find a picture of him for you, buddy, just so you can kind of get an idea.
I got one somewhere on my phone. I actually finally got to meet him at one of my fights at the Roanoke Civic Center. He was a special guest, and, he was one of those people that, like I said, I watched his fights, and, he
did kind of resemble Mr. T, don't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He is a monster. Go back and YouTube some of his fights. Like, people, down there, wherever he was from, I don't know where he was at, people would just challenge him. He would show up. He'd show up like Tyson in a car to somebody's backyard. There'd be 150 people standing in the backyard. Him and a dude just go at it, and Kimbo never lost.
Dang.
Never lost. He pummeled people.
Yeah, he knocked the guy's eyeball out one time. The guy's eyeball was just dangling. The guy's like shaking his hand because the guy hit him. And he's like, is that all you got? It's over. And then all of a sudden, boom, he hits the guy. The guy's eyeball falls out.
Just street fighting.
That's the second eyeball knocked out story we've had on the podcast.
On one show, yeah. This is definitely an Appalachian show right here.
Yeah,
so,
wow.
So you jumped into MMA and you started doing that when you got out of college. Where around here, because this is something I maybe not me considered, but maybe for my children someday, I always wondered. I remember Victory Stadium used to have a boxing gym underneath the stadium over there. And that's the last time I remember anything being like that around here. So if there's somebody around here that's interested in getting into the MMA or something, where would they go about doing that? Where do you train at? Some people around here that might help them get involved in that world.
Me, myself, I train at a place called Round 30 Mixed Martial Arts in Roanoke. But we have a joint partnership with the gym that joined us. It's called Big Lick Boxing. Oh. And, they train a lot of kids that are younger and some adults, and it's an awesome boxing program. They've definitely came into the gym. They've helped me out a lot because, like I said, at one point, I didn't respect boxing enough to do it a lot. But, when the mix of, hey, you need to get serious with your boxing and not just rely on your, mixed martial arts striking and stuff like that. They came at a point in time that, was heavily needed, not only by me, but several of my MMA teammates. And, that's a group of guys. There's a couple boxing gyms in the Roanoke area, Champs Boxing Gym. And there's another boxing gym. I forgot. Oh, Gator Boxing. A lot of people have probably heard of Gator Boxing more than any other boxing gym because they've had some, you know, some junior Olympic trial guys and junior Olympic world guys and some title holders from out of that gym. And
so is that where you learned the jiu-jitsu and stuff too? Is it same gym, or do you have to branch out to another area to kind of...
actually, like inside my MMA gym, my coach taught me the, you know, the BJJ side of it, the jiu-jitsu side of it. And then, you know, getting more mature into the sport, you got to not necessarily like branch out, but you got to find other people to help you get better at your craft. And, you know, I found a strictly jiu-jitsu gym called Hybrid Mixed Martial Arts in downtown Roanoke. And, you know, they've helped me with my jiu-jitsu a lot. But most mainly my guys at my gym and my coach Enrique at my gym have helped me with, you know, jiu-jitsu, because that was the thing that gave me my first loss in MMA. Because, you know, like I said, I came in as a cocky wrestler that only trained at a boxing gym for literally 2 weeks before the fight. And, you know, luckily I knocked the guy out in 25 seconds and got the win. But, you know, going in that next fight, you know, I did the same thing I did with the first guy. You know, I knocked him down, took him down, and was beating him up. But this guy was different. He handled it and somehow got around my neck and choked me out. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, so the first fight you won, though?
Yes, I won my very first.
Off of just boxing skills for the most part?
Yeah, off my boxing and kind of sort of my wrestling of him not being able to take me down. But, you know, training at that boxing gym for 2 solid weeks, I'm a fast learner, so I picked up on it. And, you know, right before I went out for my fight, you know, my coach was like, be first and do what we practice. And that's what I did. And like I said, ultimately it got me a 25-second knockout, which was amazing. I did not know how to act after that because it was my first MMA fight. I won it. And
all the adrenaline's pumping and you're just excited.
Roof. And what's crazy about it, you know, a guy I've watched for years on TV, Ken Shamrock, was there. So
sure. Yeah, everybody knows Shamrock. He was one of the best. Yeah, he was one of the pioneers of UFC, essentially.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he was there and coming out of that cage that night and him, you know, giving me the fist bump, that was like not necessarily a childhood dream, but it was like probably one of the greatest moments ever watching this guy and my grandmother screaming at the TV when he would come on TV and him giving me the fist bump was awesome.
Now, that's what I love. That's one thing I love about MMA because, of course, Bodie, you know, when we're growing up, especially just when normal kids on the playground are getting in a fight or whatever, everybody wants to gripe and let their voice be known about, oh, you know, fight fair, stand up. And there ain't no such thing as a fair fight. Exactly. And I do love boxing. I think it's not quite what it used to be, but I do enjoy watching it, a good boxer. Oh. But MMA, the reason I like it so much is, hey, look, you might be able to box, but you better be able to stop me from Goldberg spearing you and getting you onto the ground while you're punching me. And me, you've got to mix it. There's no such thing as fair. You know, one might be able to box, one might be able to wrestle, one might, you know jiu-jitsu a little bit better. There's so many different varieties. And I think that's the ultimate form of fighting right there. Hey, I'm going to bring what I got. You bring what you got. And let's see what we can do. You know, me in high school, I'm not going to go, bob and weave with some dude who's a running back or something that's quick as shit and can sit. I ain't gonna do it, but I'm gonna sit there and tackle him while he is punching me, and we'll see how it turns out. So that's what I do like about the MMA. And you did that, and you're in bare knuckle fighting now, though. How did that transition happen? Man,
that transition is a transition that I'm still working with today because, you know, when I first got into it, you know, it was a new sport. You know, when I first got to go to my very first show, it was their second show ever. And, you know, they offered me a fight then, but, you know, it wasn't my time yet because, you know, I'm still heavy in MMA. I just beat a guy 2 weeks before that fought in Bellator. So, you know, he was one of those guys. He fought on a higher level of MMA than me. And, you know, I fought him and beat him in a minute and 29 seconds in the first round. So, my head was back up here, and, you know, Bare Knuckle offered me a fight, you know, when I went to their second show because one of my old teammates, you know, got a fight offer to fight for him, and, you know, he asked me to go corner him. So, you know, it was a different atmosphere. But, you know, when I went there for him, I wasn't there for myself when they asked me. I was there for him. But, you know, I guess being who I am, everybody that felt my presence or seen me there thought I was the one fighting and he wasn't. And I'm like, no. Like the cameras, and I was kind of camera shy a little bit then too, because I wasn't used to so many cameras being in my face. And when they were filming, they were supposed to be filming him, but they were filming me because, you know, we were warming up and stuff, but and talking to the media at that point. But like I told them back then, I'm not here for myself. I'm here for him solely. So, you know, I'm not gonna say I let my chance slip by then, but, you know, I waited out my time and they had tryouts, and I was like, well, here's my chance. And, you know, they had tryouts in Philly, and me being a Redskin fan, I don't like Philly. I don't want to go to Philly. I don't want to have nothing to do with Philly. But, you know, right prior to that, one of my brothers died, and he was a big Philadelphia Eagles fan, and he would always tell me, you're going to make that trip to Philly one day, even if I have to drag you to Philly. And, you know, that it popped into my head like, you know, trials are in Philly. You know, my brother has always been saying this, so, you know, I think this is my calling, so let me go ahead and, you know, do this for him. Not just for myself, but do this for him. And, you know, I went there for tryouts, and, you know, I was injured going to those tryouts, but I still performed to the best of my abilities. And, you know, they let me know, hey, you know, we want to work with you. And they told me what I needed to do. I needed to do a couple things on the side that I needed to handle. And I handled those things. And, you know, 6 months later, they came to one of my MMA fights and surprised me with a contract, and I signed right then and there.
So what I'm noticing here is also the progression of your mentality too, not just the arrogant kid wanting to wrestle. You know, you make decisions and just go with it. And here you get into that point where it's a big step for your career, and you say, "Whoa, I ain't ready for this." That's where you really you can tell that you took a big mature step there. Said, well, let me just get ready. And so when I make this step, I am ready. And that was a growth point there in your career, it sounds like.
Well, and to put it into perspective, and I'm pretty sure that bare knuckle boxing, bare knuckle fighting wasn't legal until a few years ago. Yeah, like it has been illegal in this country for a long time. Yeah, and only until a few years ago, because that's when I started seeing him, you know, on Instagram. Like I follow his Instagram account quite a bit, and I'd see the bare knuckle fighting. I'm like, man, I swear to God, I thought bare knuckle fighting was illegal in this country. And I was actually talking to Travis Board up at Foster's General Store the other day. We're all hanging out in there, and he was telling me that about 3 years ago they actually legalized it. So I didn't even know that, because one of my favorite movies of all time is Snatch. You ever seen Snatch?
Yeah, but I've seen Fight Club where they've done it.
Same actor, Brad Pitt, is also in Snatch, but Snatch is
I'm gonna have to check that
so
out.
much better. It's basically about a bare knuckle boxer, and he and a couple boxing promoters kind of get mixed up with a mob guy out in Britain. If you've ever seen Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, it's Guy Ritchie. It's his second film. Snatch is kind of like, I'm telling you, if you haven't seen it, Snatch is phenomenal. Brad Pitt, bare knuckle boxer. But yeah, I mean, it is. And in that movie, it's all underground, you know, because bare knuckle boxing has, for the longest time, has been illegal. And I know so you jump into the bare knuckle boxing world. And here recently, you had a massive fight with somebody everybody on here is going to recognize. Chad Johnson, Ocho-Cinco. I know we talked about fantasy football earlier. I'm sure plenty of people that are listening have won titles by drafting him. You got a chance to fight him. Let's talk about that for a second. What was that like for you?
Man, that till this day, even though I talk to him once, maybe twice a week, till this day, that it is wild to me, because it's my favorite football player of all time. Any of my friends that, you know, I hang out with till this day that I grew up with already knew if I got Madden or if I had to do anything with any video game or was watching football on Sundays, I'm watching Chad Johnson play. Like, that was my player that I would put on every team, any like little bullshit fantasy league that I would do on pieces of paper. Before the internet became popular, doing fantasy league on a piece of paper, Chad Johnson was always the first player I picked. I even when my mom finally found out I was playing football, that was the first number that I ever picked to wear was 85.
87. Oh, 85. That's right. That's
85. And, it's my favorite football player. And, when everything started happening and he DM'd me on Instagram, I'm sitting there like, I follow his page. So why is Chad Johnson messaging me? Because I'm just a regular person. I have a name through bare knuckle, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't know who I am, even though I'm a big fan. But when he messaged me, he was like, hey, I was like, man, this ain't the real Chad Johnson. Maybe his page is hacked.
It's like his publicist or something, yeah.
Yeah, because, on Instagram, you get bots and weird stuff messaging. And you're like, man, what the heck is this? So, I deleted the message. And then, 2 seconds later, a promoter I had fought for my very first boxing match calls me. I'm like, man, why is he calling me? Because it was literally a few moments later, because I was on the way to Alabama. I shouldn't have even been on my phone while driving, but I was on a straightaway, so the notification comes through my phone. So I look.
That's all there is in Alabama. You ain't got to make apologies. It's nothing but straightaways. Yeah. That's all it is.
Yeah, I'm sitting there doing 80 to 100 the whole way through Alabama.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which was fun, but I'm doing that, and the promoter calls me. I'm like, damn, why is he calling me? So he calls me, and I answer. He's like, hey, Brian, what are you doing? When's your next fight? What are you doing? And I told him, I'm on the way to these Alabama bare knuckle trials to help out. And I think I got a fight coming up for bare knuckle. And he's like, all right, wait a minute. I'll call you back. Give me some time. And I was like, okay, that was weird. So I'm driving 10 minutes later. The notification comes up on my screen in my car. Chad Johnson messaged me again. He's like, hey, can you help me out with something? I was like, by then I was like, man, this is a bot. This is a fake page. So I click on this page. It's his real page. So I'm like, man, is this really the real Chad Johnson messaging me? He's like, yeah, why would I do that? Why would I play? I was like, man, look, I don't know. I told him my name. I was like, are you sure this is Chad Johnson? And he's like, he was at his daughter's track meet, and he sent me a video of him at the track meet to prove that it was him. I was like, man, hell no, this still ain't Chad Johnson. I told him that, and he sent me his phone number. He said, call me. And I was like, man, this is definitely fake. Somebody hacked his account. So, I got to the fights and stuff, and forgot all about it. So I wasn't worried about it because like I said, I thought it was fake. And I'm dealing with the fight fans at the crowds, taking pictures and signing autographs for a couple people, and then somebody, I forgot who it was. No, it was a podcaster. He came up to me and was like, Chad Johnson is fighting. I was like, man, this has been a weird trip so far. How did this person know about it? Because I hadn't heard that he was fighting yet. And so, this podcaster was telling me about it, and I blew it off that night because I was like, once again, I thought the shit.
Yeah. You just
I threw it to the side. So, time goes on that night. The next morning, I'm driving back to Virginia. Chad messages me again. He's like, what's up? And I was like, oh, my bad about last night. I got to dealing with the fight, so I didn't, call you. So I threw it off again because, like I said, I thought it was fake. So I drive that, nice long 8.5 hour drive home from Alabama back to here. And, like I said, I don't think nothing else about it. So, the next day I'm at work, normal day, doing what I got to do, listening to a podcast like I do almost a different podcast, or watching a different kind of video every day like I do at work. And, my active running manager, she comes and tells me, why Chad Johnson called you? And I'm like, no, why? And, she let me know that the promotion that I'm fighting for, you're gonna be fighting him. I was like, what? It surprised me because, I didn't know what was going on. I was like, oh, that's why he was calling me. I messaged her and was like, call this number to see if it's him. And she wasn't going to do it. So I was like, man, forget it then. And, when she let me know that, I called the promotion that I fight for, and they was like, yeah, here, your name has been dropped, and you're going to be fighting Chad Ocho-Cinco Johnson. And I'm sitting here with tears in my eyes and going ballistic. I hadn't even, accepted the fight yet. And because, I had a bare knuckle fight coming up, and, after I talked to them about everything that was going on, and I was like, if I take this fight, my bare knuckle fight won't be in jeopardy, will it? And, you know, once they gave me confirmation that, no, you can still take this your bare knuckle fight, but you're about to fight on. I didn't even know that it was on Mayweather Promotions yet at that point. You're going to be fighting Chad Johnson on Mayweather Promotions. And,
which is an MMA fight, correct?
No, it was a boxing fight.
Okay. All right. So we hitting. Okay.
Yeah, it was a pure boxing fight. And I'm sitting here silently crying to myself and, you know, just freaking out and jumping up and down because I was like, man, this is a life changer. This is why this man messaged me, and, you know, all the events that happened around it with the promoter calling me and just other people talking to me about it. But me, like I said, I threw it out the window because I didn't believe it. And then once I got confirmation and everything started happening, like I knew about the fight like literally months before it happened. I just couldn't put it, you know, I had
into
to
perspective.
I had to kind of control myself and not be able to be like, hey, guess what I'm doing? I am like, fighting my eyes out. I couldn't tell everybody because when I finally got confirmation and got the contract and everything, I wanted to just tell the whole world, like, because I didn't want to keep that in, but, you know, they told me I had to, you know, keep it in until, you know, everything contractually had to happen. And
yeah, it's a lot that goes on in that process, I'm sure.
Yeah, man. And, you know, once everything was confirmed and, you know, I'm sitting here silently holding back and all these radio stations and news channels, you know, calling me. I'm thinking that's weird because I haven't, you know, never, you know, had that kind of, you know, publicity, and me still having to hold it in because they weren't dropping the interviews or nothing yet. But, you know, they were going ahead and doing my interviews and stuff early. So when it did drop, it would like blow massive. And then, you know, like several weeks later, that's when it came out that Floyd Mayweather was fighting Logan Paul. And, you know, of course, they had their whole debacle, and that went viral.
Oh, yeah.
But a week later, when my name and Chad Johnson's name came up that we were fighting, people weren't even talking about that fight no more. It blew up that I was fighting Ocho-Cinco. And at one point, for 2 weeks straight, my name and his name were like the highest trending topics ever on Twitter, Facebook, and anything that had to do with social media at the time. And that's why I'm still to this day, even though the fight's been over and done with and everything that's came behind it and the publicity and I guess what they call it being famous. I don't consider myself famous because I'm still the same person. I walk my way of life every day because like my coach tells me, every man has a journey. It still baffles me how I even got the fight, honestly. And
I mean, Bodine, I don't know if you quite remember as well as I do, but back then, back in the day, like 10, 12 years ago, Ocho-Cinco was, I mean, him and Terrell Owens were probably the two biggest personalities in all of football. Yes, he was one of the best wide receivers of all time. Mm-hmm. And even when he got done playing football, before he even, I guess, started fighting, or maybe in the midst of it, he decided he wanted to go play professional soccer too. I mean, the man is an athlete, a pure athlete. Probably could have done anything he wanted to do. And if Chad Johnson would have took up fighting when he was 18 instead of football, he would probably be a world champion right now. You know what I mean? I mean, he's just a phenomenal athlete. And you beat him, right?
That's the crazy thing people don't, you know about him also is, you know, the man's been in boxing and training with Floyd Mayweather for years. He went to train with Floyd every off season to get ready for football with the footwork and his hand-eye coordination. And, you know, I tell people all the time, if you were a true fan like I am of Chad Ocho-Cinco Johnson till this day, I knew that, you know, he had a boxing background, but he just never had a fight. You know, he would do the sparring and stuff back in the day to help him for football, but it wouldn't be like the intense of sparring that he had to do to get ready for our fight. But, you know, as a true fan, I knew he had a boxing background, so I wasn't going to just
take him lightly. No, you couldn't.
Take him lightly because, like, at the end of the day, this is my favorite player of all time, and he's a super world athlete that played amazing football, and even when he tried soccer, he was still pretty decent.
Yeah, he was pretty daggone good, all things considered.
Yeah, and he played I think he played arena football. He's played football in Canada. So at the end of the day, he's an all-world athlete. So, me being me, I'm not going to take him lightly, but I am going to respect him at the same point in time because it's my favorite athlete in the whole world besides, Michael Jordan. But, that's the difference.
And I even tweaked Bodine's interest over here. I just saw.
Well, I mean, I was a Jordan fan, and still am to the day.
Me too. But, with the Chad fight, everything that happened with that fight, in that fight, I respected him enough, not only as a man, but as a super fan. I wanted to be a super fan the second that I, literally, when we got to our interview the first time and we were literally from me to you, from each other, I wanted to be a super fanboy because, like I said, it's my favorite football player of all time.
You're like, Mr. Ocho-Cinco, I know we're getting ready to go in there and beat the shit out of each other with bare knuckles, but could you sign this for me real quick?
Man, look, I wanted to do that so bad, but, at the same point in time, like, man, we're here to fight. I got to hold my fanboy out. Maybe I can let my fanboy out after the fight, no matter how it goes. But, like I said, during the fight, we made it entertaining, and I'm not going to say I went full blast with him because, like I said, I got that level of respect for him, not only as an athlete, but as a man because, at the same point in time, he's one of those athletes that I molded myself after, just like a little bit of Anderson Silva. A young me needed an athlete to look up to so I could pursue my venture of being an athlete. And he was was basically that guy. And, I'm not going to say like I said, I didn't go full blast with him, but, I lit out what needed to be lit out, and what happened. And now it's got millions and millions and millions of views on all across social media, and I'm happy for it. And, at the same point in time, I didn't care about the publicity that came afterwards, but, Chad calling me after the fight with my phone, literally calling my phone after the fight, asking me where I was at. And I got to literally shake his hand and meet his family. And he's like, man, you got a huge supporter and a new friend out of me. And that's all I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about all the social media stuff or anything that came after it. That man is my friend now, and my idol is my friend. And I literally just talked to him like 4 days ago, and it's been a year after our fight.
It's interesting to think that you met his family right after you knocked their dad out. I mean, it's just a weird how that happens, and that's really that's sports though. Mm-hmm. That is professional athleticism. You may be enemies on the court, but you're friends off the court, and I mean that's just the way it is because y'all share that same mindset, the professional athlete, whatever the skill is, whether it be racing, boxing, basketball, you share that same passion, but at the same time, you're friends off that because you kind of you understand each other. You understand
there's a mutual respect.
And a mutual respect, and you, especially him as a professional athlete, and he was very successful at that prior. It's interesting to think about all that.
Well, Bodine, how many stories have we had on here on this show over the last year and a half, especially with the race car drivers, where somebody called them and their first instinct was like, you're lying to me. Who is it? And hung up the phone on them.
Yeah, really.
I mean, you remember when Jimmy Hensley was talking about Kelly Yarbrough calling? He's like, you BS. I mean, and I know it's happened on a couple other drivers we've had on here too.
Yeah, when Jimmy Hensley got to qualify Dale Earnhart's car at Martinsville, like, you got to be kidding me, right?
Yeah, I mean, these phone calls you get, even back in the day, and they think people are full of crap. Like, are you just messing with me, And we can completely understand it. We can also completely understand the fanboy side of things. When you're having to be professional, when you want to be a fan, when you're having to go work, when you just want to get an autograph or something like that. Like we get that. Being down in the pits for some of these races and hanging out with guys. For me and Bodine, kind of similar. We had Bobby Labonte on the show about a year ago. I mean,
oh man, I bet you that was awesome.
Yeah, and you know who Bobby Labonte is.
It's one of my top 5 drivers.
I got some of his stuff up here hanging up on the wall. We were fans of his growing up, and then we're sitting right down in front of him.
And we weren't prepared. They didn't really tell us it was going to happen till like 5 minutes before. They said, we're going to get Bobby the Blonde to come over and sit down and talk. I'm like, you going to do what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of had an idea he would come on, but
we weren't by, say hello.
For a couple of minutes, and he ended up sitting down for about an hour and 15 minutes. And now when we go to the tracks, he recognizes me, say hi, and exchange pleasantries and all that kind of stuff like that. And it really is. It's something that I don't know.
He loved to talk shit about my car when I had the Tesla too. So he said
he
seen it sitting there, and he said, I remember him saying, you got to watch those Teslas, and something like that. And he said, you can't use the generator on my RV to charge that thing up. By the way, he said, no, because we didn't have no power. We was using his RV's
we actually had
generator.
We had to hook up our podcast stuff to his RV just to be able to do the show that day. But I mean, it's something like that. Like we can relate to it.
But then at Martinsville, he pulled in his RV, was there, and we've seen him at Martinsville. He said, hey, seen your car sitting up there. I'm like, you remember me? It's kind of cool to get that, hey, this guy actually remembered me. I mean, yeah, because of the car, but he actually remembered us because of that related us to the podcast, essentially. So,
yeah, so I mean, it's cool to hear these stories. We can relate, and it's to be able to sit down with somebody that you really enjoyed as a kid and be able to and share those moments. I mean, it's something that regardless of however else the rest of it goes, say if you never fought another fight, then you still have that. We still have, if we shut down this podcast tomorrow, we can still say we had a NASCAR Hall of Famer and a Winston Cup champion grace our presence and come on here and the proof is it's here.
And we had no idea at the time.
No, just like him. He had no idea. He's thinking, We
had no idea at the time that Bobby Labonte was fighting kidney cancer.
Did not know that either. Was that at the time, actually?
I believe, based on what my math was, and I worked it backwards, it was somewhere around then. Because he wouldn't have been racing after that surgery, I don't think. So I think it was last year. And then somewhere at that time, he had obviously been diagnosed and later underwent surgery. And I think in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, one of them, where they were able to dissect his kidney and get all the cancer out of it.
That's a wonderful thing that he got rid of the cancer. But man, that's I probably would have definitely melted if I would have met him. But within that same night that I fought Chad, I got to meet my other two favorite wide receivers, Brandon Marshall and Terrell Owens.
We already talked about T.O. Wow, they were both there too.
Yeah, because they're even though they were opponents of Chad's when playing football, that they're all really good friends. And, at that time, I'm like, man, they're not his friend. They played against each other all the time. But, come to find out, him and T.O. are best friends. They talk every day. So with him and Brandon Marshall, and when I had the trio of them together, I'm like, man, these are the same guys that I put on every Madden team that I ever created.
Oh, yeah. Back in like 2008, if you had them three on your team, you were winning every single game you played.
And if Michael Vick was your quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't losing the game.
Game over.
But, yeah, I got to meet those two also that night. And, what really sealed the deal with me was, that bare knuckle fight after the Chad fight, which was literally 3 weeks later, Chad agreed. And as a friend at that time, by that time, and a supporter, he came out, he walked out with me and showed up and supported me and was in my corner for that fight. So,
that's even better.
If I left this earth today or tomorrow, I got a childhood dream of mine, meeting my idol. And
we're not just meeting him, getting to have a relationship with him.
And he was in your corner for that fight 3 weeks later. I didn't know that. That's incredible.
Yeah, he was literally at my bare knuckle fight, literally 3 weeks later. And, it was just a toss up to ask him when I did ask him about it. And he's like, sure, my brother, we did what we had to do in our end with the fight. And, I'm a very huge supporter and a fan of yours now because, after our fight, he posted on Twitter, he's only been hit super hard and knocked down by two people in his life. One by Ray Lewis and one by me.
That's it.
And once I seen that, I knew the respect was there. And, of course, my fight was where he lives at down there in Miami. And when I asked him, and he was like, sure, I'll be there. Just let me know when and where and what time. And, when he called me when he was outside for my weigh-ins, it came to show support at weigh-ins. And when he called me again the day of my fight to, hey, I'm outside, come get me. And I'm like, man, this is fucking awesome, and that literally sealed the deal with me, man, because he showed up at my fight. And I actually, while I was in Miami about a month and a half ago, when I went down there to train for this upcoming fight, he was there, and I got to train with him, so that's definitely sealed the deal with me. So now I'm cool on everything if something happened to me tomorrow.
The only thing you could do any better is Michael Jordan. So
yeah, that's the one person I haven't got to meet, but I want to meet.
I'm not sure that I could handle meeting Michael Jordan, and there's a chance I will meet Michael Jordan through being into pits to racetrack. It's a chance I could be like, I would be like Wayne's World. It would be like me. I'd be like on Wayne's World. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
We suck.
We suck. That would be me when I meet Michael Jordan. I'm not sure I could quite handle it, but we'll see. I'm sure he would. What did Alice Cooper do? He just stuck his hand.
Stuck his hand out. I tell you what, man, it's to be able to be around people that influence you like that. It's something else, man, and it's super cool for us. And like I said, it's super cool to be able to follow you on Instagram and your social media and watch you fight and know that we got somebody from around here doing cool stuff like that. Like you said, Chad Ocho-Cinco, he is one of the most prominent athletes of the 21st century here in football. Should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, just a phenomenal athlete, and to be able to hear how humble he is and be able to still reach out to you and y'all still have a relationship. Mm-hmm. So the next thing we really need to happen is the next time he sends you a message or gives you a call, you need to be like, Chad, I got these mouth-breathing rednecks back up here in my hometown. I got a podcast, and we really need you to call in and Zoom with them one time for about 15 minutes, and that would just be...
Billy's calling in a favor.
Yeah, exactly. I already calling in a favor. But all jokes aside, you do have a fight coming up this weekend in Montana. What I was getting. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, what you got on tap for this weekend? I'm excited now.
I'm super excited. This has probably been one of my best fight camps I've had so far. I usually say that about every fight camp, but this fight camp right here, man, it's been different. My last fight with Bare Knuckle, it took a back seat to any fight I've ever had. It was the first time in a long time in my career that, I got an opponent that I knew I should have beat and should have ran through, but it's the first time in a long time since maybe the first part of my MMA career that, I overlooked someone. I haven't done that in a long time. I got not necessarily too above myself, but I had a lot of emotions in that last fight camp because it was around the time that I'm getting ready for a fight, and it was the same time period that my brother had died, and like I told them, I was super emotional in that fight camp. I did what I needed to do to get ready for the fight. The dude that I was going against, I told him I'm going to blow through this guy, and I never talk like that. I never get super cocky or talk the way I did about that fight the way I did, and it was through my emotions. I shouldn't have any excuses, but that's what happened. I overlooked a guy that I know I should have ran through and beat the pulp out of. But, this fight camp that I'm ending right now, I got a cup, 3 days left of the fight camp to finish it out. It's been special. It's been different. I've gotten a lot of help from my out-of-town teammates, and I got to be in Miami for some time training while doing some other stuff in Miami, like meet and greets and stuff. And, I got to do something else that I haven't done in a fight camp in a long time. I've gotten bigger in this fighting camp. I've lifted so much more upon, trying to perfect my craft this fight camp. And, of course, I'm going in, I'm fighting a hometown favorite. And
I was going to say, I was looking at this picture, and he looks like he is from Montana.
Yeah.
He looks like he's Native American. He looks like he's Native American, so that would be Montana.
That's what I'm kind of looking at right now.
He's Native American, and, he fought on that same fight card that I fought on last time, and he lost that night. And, so what makes perfectly great sense is, I lost that fight, and he lost that fight, put us together, and, I fought at a lesser weight class that fight that I lost. against the other guy, but he fights at 205, and 205 is my natural weight class. It's what I had my success in, earlier as a professional fighter, and basically throughout my whole amateur career. When I won most of my amateur titles in is at 205, and when I found out about this fight, I was like, you know what? I haven't fought at 205 in probably almost 2 years, and it's time to look like I fight at 205. I've lifted, and like I said, this has been a wonderful fight camp. I haven't been emotional besides to, my not my anger, but my, not going to say my food deficiency, but my junk food deficiency. I've been lashing out, and it's been great, man. I've had a great fight camp. I've literally, like I said, this is the best I felt going into a fight, and actually since the Chad Johnson fight. Honestly, like, I feel great. My skills and everything is replenished and at tip top where it should be. I'm mentally and physically in a great space. I'm not emotional. I'm gonna fight like the guy that everybody knows that how I fight, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna have my hand raised after this fight, because there's no pressure there's no pressure on me going into this fight. I've cleared my mind of everything. Like I've told everybody around me, look, my mind is clear. Don't get on my nerves. At wits with everything right now. My mind is free, clear, and under control. My mentality is awesome going into this fight amongst my skill level, and I cannot wait till Saturday, September 10th, to beat the crap out of Leo Bashir in his hometown, because all the pressure is on him.
Yeah,
true.
It's his hometown. He's the hometown favorite. That crowd when he comes out it's like me fighting Chad all over again. That crowd was loud, and
they ain't there for you.
They're definitely not there for me, because when I fought there in Great Falls, Montana last time, those people, they knew who I was just because of the Chad fight, and I signed a couple autographs and took a couple pictures with people, but them knowing I was fighting a hometown guy, I got all the boos and all that's expected, but it's whatever. And I know I'm going to get those boos this time, because he is their hometown guy. He's their favorite, and come Saturday, he just got to go and deal with these frustrations and this great fight camp that I've had so far.
So how can we catch this? How can we watch? Because I want to watch.
You can definitely check me out on the Bare Knuckle TV app. I know you guys follow me on Facebook and my Instagram. The link to it is in my bio on Instagram, and I'll be posting tonight, tomorrow, well every day for the rest of the week for you to like and subscribe and tune in to watch the fight Saturday. And the BKFC TV app is only $4.99 a month, and that's like the best deal in the game, because you pay probably $79-$80 per UFC pay-per-view fight, except for the the UFC fight nights that come on TV. But the price that you pay for one UFC fight, you pay that for maybe, if that, a year, for a whole year subscription to the BK TV app.
What we might have to do next week, Bodine, is get our show with Don Johnson and the paranormal people over here on Saturday night, and we'll just buy the fight right here on the TV and watch it while we're doing a show at the same time. I mean, that'd be a perfect opportunity to get us together and do that kind of stuff. And it's kind of funny. Brian is the third, I guess, traditional athlete we've had on the show to this point in time. Yeah. And a few weeks ago we had Steve Mowry, who was a Bellator MMA fighter. Mm-hmm. I think he was 10-0. I think he lost his bout right after us, so we are bad luck. I hope that doesn't.
But now wait a minute.
Is he from here?
No.
He's wait a minute. So when we seen Kevin Harvick at North Wilkesboro a couple weeks ago, got to take a picture with him. He won 2 races back to back. So.
Yeah, but then
that's my number 2 guy on my list. A favorite NASCAR driver is Kevin Harvick.
MMA guy.
Yeah.
He did a lot of MMA stuff there for a while.
But you know what, though? Out of all the 3 athletes we've had on here, I would probably venture to say that, between Brian and Steve, Travis Armstrong probably has the most experience fighting. You know what I mean? Speaking of, we had him on here, and the very next time I went to see a game over in Roanoke, before I had not sat my butt down in the seats, and I looked up, and the play has stopped, and there's Travis beating somebody across the ice.
Do you keep up with hockey or any?
Man, I love hockey. I'm probably one of the biggest hockey fans. I'm not gonna say out there, but I'm probably one of the biggest hockey fans in this area. I love hockey. Like, a lot of my friends think that's weird, but I got to go to my very first hockey game in third grade when the Roanoke Express played in the center. And after that, I was a big hockey fan. I love the Mighty Ducks. Like, that's that's my favorite movies of all time. That's my
jam. Yeah.
And like, when I got to go to my first hockey game as a third grader, rest in peace to my third grade teacher, Miss Donna Minix.
I remember Miss Minix. Yeah, absolutely.
She took me to my very first hockey game, and I was in love with watching live hockey ever since then. And yeah, I just love hockey, man. Like, people think I'm weird because, once again, black guys don't like hockey. But
it's a stereotype.
I love hockey. Like,
the physicalness of it, and
I do too. Like, I love it. Like, I once got into a fight with a guy before I even done mixed martial arts. It was after I was, living life after college. I got into a fight with a guy, and he's a bigger guy. So, me being me, I thought he was going to get the best of me. So I pulled the very famous hockey move. I pulled his shirt and grabbed his face and beat his face in like we were playing hockey.
I've been in many a fight, just because I played hockey growing up, so that's how I fought. That's why I would never square off against nobody. I'm like, why am I going to square off against you in high school when I'm a hockey fighter, and I'm just going to grab you and pull you into me, and I'm going to use my strength? That's what you got to do.
And it's no joke. Billy come over. Billy didn't get to a lot of the hockey games because the baby had just been born, and we was going to most of them this past year, and Travis had been on. Billy gets there is about a quarter way through the first period.
Yeah, about 5-6 minutes in.
Billy turns around and sits down, and Travis literally is fighting a guy right there. Just this huge blowout fight. Gets ejected from the game on that one. That was when he got ejected from the game and then suspended for the next game. He wasn't even in the fight. It was a fight over in the corner.
No, the one I got to, he was actually fighting.
No. Wasn't it the one? It was a fight that started, and then Travis wasn't involved in it, and he was skating away, and a dude clotheslined him, and then it was a secondary fight. Wasn't that the one?
I don't remember. I think the one I showed up at, he was fighting right there next to the bench, and he only got, I want to say he only got a 5-minute minor for that. 5-minute major. I don't think he got kicked out of the game for that one. That was a different time, but yeah.
He got third out of
it. He could have been, because
literally, it was like...
It sounds right that I only got to see him play about 5 minutes this year, really.
Literally, some other guys got in a fight, got in a skirmish over in the corner next to the home bench, and the fight broke up, and Travis is skating away, and this dude just goes at him, and then next thing they're fighting. And in the secondary fight, it results in a ejection for or a suspension for the next game.
Could have been. Either way, it's funny that we've had two professional MMA fighters on here, and Travis Armstrong has probably dropped the gloves more than any of them. And I love Travis Armstrong to death. Just retired, but he's sticking around in the area. I think I've talked to him a few times about getting him back on the show. Guy. Hopefully, maybe we should get him back on the show here in about a month and do a hockey preseason kind of dig or something, because he's a blast. He's just a Canadian redneck like the rest of us. You know what I mean?
I love watching hockey fights.
That's what we're going to have to do then. Here this winter, whenever you ain't fighting or something, let's all get together and go to a game or something over in Roanoke. We'll sit down with Travis. We'll have to eat ahead of time and get drunk and go there and talk crap. That's what we'll do.
I can see that working out great.
Right, so Travis, you're not coaching this year, right? No. Well,
I'm not wearing my hockey jersey night because I'm afraid Travis and Brian will pull it over my head.
Let's meet up at 5 o'clock and drink until 7, and then get an Uber straight to the arena and Bodine, what I'm going to do, if I'm sitting there with Travis and Brian, I'm going to talk shit to everybody that walks by and dare any of them. Like, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to come on up here? And then when they come up here, I'm just going to sit back and
beer in hand.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no way. I'm wearing suspenders that night because I want to make sure nobody can pull the shirt over my head.
You got to, but
I'm definitely not a fighter, so I ain't going to. But I was like, man, that'd be a bad idea.
Well, before we get out of here, I thought it was kind of funny. I wanted to tell this story at the beginning, but we didn't get a chance to. Because I'd hit Brian up today, and like I said, I've been following him here for a while. And I wanted to hit him up maybe after this upcoming fight. He's got to sit there and come on the show because we just had Steve on here, and I like talking about the fight. I like talking about, the different kind of things we got going. But most importantly, I like supporting and promoting Franklin County. Anybody in Franklin County, as long as you don't step on my toes, I'm going to sit there and promote you and support you, whether I know you or I love you or care about you or just seen you in passing. I want this town to thrive. And I know it's got to be more than just us doing it. So I root for anybody. I've been following him. And he hit me up a couple of days ago and said, man, can I come on your show? And I was like, well, hell, I was going to ask you, but absolutely. It's like, do you want to do it before the fight? He's like, yeah, I want to do it before the fight. And he, I guess, hit me up today. And don't even think he knew we were here in Rocky Mount. Because I was like, he's like, you want to do it on Instagram Live or a Zoom? I was like, well, I mean, do it at the studio is probably the best because you get the best interaction. Zoom, you really miss out on it. Like, we miss out on this on Zoom what we've had here tonight. And he was like, oh, where in your Virginia you at? I'm like, damn, this dude don't know we right here in his hometown.
Like that's crazy because, like I said, you've been following me for a while and I be checking stuff out. And I'm like, because of the name, I'm like, they nowhere near here. So maybe it's like, other podcasts that are not necessarily local, but close that I've been on. And I'm like, oh, maybe there's somewhere different. So let me ask them about going Instagram Live or doing a Zoom call. And when you said Rocky Mount, I'm like, are you being serious? That's what I said to myself. And I was like, man, that's in my hometown. I'm from there. Like,
well, whereabouts do you live now?
I'm in Roanoke now.
Oh, okay.
I moved away from here a long time ago because at the point in stage I was at when I first started mixed martial arts, I did not need to be around here. I needed to
understood.
Yeah.
I found out about my son I had a son on the way. So my mom always told me if you create a child, you better be able to take care of one because if you don't, I'm going to beat your ass.
Yeah, like a good mama right there.
And, that was my mission to give my son give my son a role model. You feel what I'm saying? Because, my father's been, in and out of my life when I was a kid, going back and forth to jail and stuff. And, all I basically had was my stepfather growing up. And
what's his name? What's your stepfather's name?
His name is Billy Tolliver. Y'all might know him. Might sound familiar.
Billy Tolliver. I mean, that ain't Jessica Tolliver's dad, is it?
No, sir.
Okay. I was going to say, I remember her talking about her dad quite a bit back in the day, but that's been so long. So, But I do know a lot of Tollivers, like Keith, Jessica, we know a bunch of Arthur back in the day. So,
But, all I had was basically my stepdad being in my life amongst my coaches. And, when I was a kid, me and my stepdad wasn't on the best of terms because, I was that kid.
It's not easy. It's not an easy transition.
You're not my father, so you're not going to be able to tell me what to do. And, I really didn't realize the stuff that he told me and became like kind of close to him until I got a little bit older and out the house.
You start realizing the importance of it.
Everything that he put me through. I get my work ethic. I'm going to gracefully give this man his props. He somewhat molded me with my work ethic because, like I said, this man is almost 70 years old and still moves around like he's 25 years old. He will not sit down, and I feel like he helped me because I'm just like him. I will not sit down. I'm on go mode at all time, and he always told me if you want something, you got to go get it. And sure, I'm 35 years old now, and this is about the time a lot of people start giving up on their athletic abilities because you're 35 and you're not getting any younger. The way I feel right now, I feel better right now than I did when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I'm in way better shape. I feel fantastic. Of course, I'm not 100% because once you start playing sports, your body's never 100% again because you've already broken it down for so long. But, I feel great. I'm in my prime. And, right now at this point in time, I'm on my 5-year plan because in 5 more years, my son will be, well, technically 7 years, but 5 more years, my son will be about that time ready to graduate high school and go to the next level of college. And, I'm going to be at that point where I'm done with playing sports because I've done it most of my life. And, my goal is to stop playing sports. But I'm still going to teach. I'm actually thinking it's in my head right now that once I'm done, maybe before then, within these 5 years, or after I'm done, I'm going to put something here in Franklin County for the youth, man. Like, because there's no boxing gyms here. There's no.
Absolutely. I'm 100% in favor of that. Let's teach these kids.
MMA gyms. I think that's one thing that could help this community.
Absolutely.
Honestly. You know, one, me being from here and me having a bigger name and bringing something to here that these kids need to have something to do, because what we have here, a skate park and
it's not a lot,
and a recreational center.
Yeah, and a YMCA.
We got Champions Martial Arts. I think there is some.
Yeah, we've got some martial arts places here, a couple of them, but we don't have boxing.
No, not that I could think of. And you know, like, I could see like people like Jamie and Tony Wright being big into something like that and support that.
The Wright brothers too. Talk about some wrestlers.
Yes,
I think they would be like supportive of stuff like that too. Yeah. And then so they're so big in the community, knowing those. We always say Jamie and Tony, but it's really Jamie, Tony, and Aubrey.
Yeah. And Aubrey is one of those guys too that helped me tremendously with wrestling.
We go way back with Aubrey. We go back to the Winn-Dixie. He was our boss man at Winn-Dixie. Now back then we used to have fun. He was like, I was like 3 store managers, you know, and he was like number 3 guy. But it would always be us, you know, him and the late Jay Joplin would always be into wrestling. They were like into the, you know, WWE style wrestling and everything, and we would always be playing practical jokes on each other. But I'd always remember they used to get these big old pieces of styrofoam in that would hold stuff together than Winn-Dixie in the back rooms. And it wouldn't do nothing for you to come around the corner and Aubrey Wright slam you with this big piece of styrofoam and it shatter like glass. And it was always like, those were the hot ticket. If you could find one of those pieces that would break and they were hard, that would be it. You would jump out of somewhere and smash somebody, and then that styrofoam would explode and go everywhere. We go back a long ways with Aubrey, and he's a special dude right there.
Yes, sir. That's one thing that I miss about Franklin County is Winn-Dixie.
Yeah.
We even had the WD. What was it? WD
like,
for life.
Yeah, it was
because we took a spin. We took a spin off of the Wolfpack.
NWO
Wolfpack. We made like a hand. I can't even do it now. Probably got arthritis in my fingers won't let me.
Arthritis in your trigger finger.
Yeah. But those guys, and they would be super supportive and stuff like that. I could see that being something they would be into. But you're absolutely right. It needs to be here. And as our old friend Chris Williams always talks about, is every experience of his is a file folder. He puts stuff in. He says it's in his brain, and when he has to pull it out and tell people about it. But for you've been in trouble as a kid. You've done some stuff in the sports world that, you know, when you were starting out in sports in high school that you weren't proud of, you know, anger and stuff like that. You're a good role model for your son, but I'm sure you want to do even more. You know, if there's other kids local in the community, if you can help one, if you can be a positive role model for just one, it's a success no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I tell my son that all the time, even though he's at the age where he's like, one thing goes in one ear and it goes out the other.
Oh yeah, we know.
I tell him every day, one day you will thank me. But you know, all the kids that, you know, I have that come to the gym, whether I'm teaching them wrestling or helping out with the boxing program, I treat them like I treat my son. You know what I'm saying? Even if I gotta get into a heated argument with them, be like, look, this is how it's gonna be. This is how we're gonna do it.
Jesse Roach style.
Yes, sir. But, you know, like I tell them that you'll thank me later. And even when I help out with kids doing football training, I treat them like I would treat my son. You feel what I'm saying? And, you know, my son is kind of following my footsteps. So I feel accomplished right now. My son has just started wrestling last year. And, you know, he actually just had a tournament this weekend. And he got, you know, he's just started middle school. So he had his very first middle school tournament. And he got second in the tournament. And, you know, that's one thing that has made me feel proud, because at the end of the day, you know, I try to be the best father I can be, and my son following in my footsteps, being a wrestler at an earlier age than me and sticking to it and being like, this kid lives, breathes, cries wrestling right now. And it kind of makes me shed a man tear on the inside, because he's doing what I've tried to instill in him for so long, and now that
and you glad he's also like it's something y'all have a common interest in. He's not doing it just for you. He's doing it because he really likes it.
Yeah, but we still argue about it. But at the end of the day, it makes me proud that that's what he's doing, and I'm telling you, he loves it. He wants to be around wrestling all the time, and that's something I'm not gonna say I forced it on him, but I kind of forced it on him because I'm like, this is what's going to help you in life. Being a wrestler is going to give you the discipline. It's going to give you all the things you need when you get
Absolutely.
to an adult. Because I tell them all the time, look, I was your age once and I was bad. I got kicked out of school a lot. I got held back once because I got kicked out of school a lot. I got in trouble almost every day because of my attitude, my mouth, and the stupid stuff I would do in the classroom because I would get bored in the classroom and to either decide to talk junk to my teacher, or I would start picking on another student to cause a fight or to cause an argument. And I tell them, I don't want you to be like that. So you're going to start wrestling way earlier than me just for the discipline. And, if you don't listen to me, I know you'll listen to one of your coaches.
And that don't mean he has to make a career out of it, but you just want it for the discipline and the structure. Structure,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, sir. And like I said, right now, I'm a proud father because this kid lives and dies wrestling, and if he doesn't get to do something that involves wrestling at this point, like it's like he's lost the world. And I can be mad, but I can't be mad because I know how he feels, and it makes my heart happy.
Well,
I think this has been a great episode.
Yeah, we want to get you out of here because we know you got a fight this week. We're not trying to keep you out to the butt ass crack at all. Yeah.
As soon as I get home, I'm going to sit in the sauna. I got 2 pounds left.
You got a sauna at home?
Yeah, I got a portable sauna that you can sit in the middle of the floor and turn it on.
Don't hold out on us.
I go in there, sit in that thing.
Don't hold out on us. Come on now.
Put the hood on, crank that steam up, and sweat it out.
That's where me and Billy wouldn't have made it against wrestlers.
Yeah. But Brian, man, first off,
awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and coming by here and talking about this stuff. Number 2, we got to get you back on the show again. Maybe once every few months or something, we can get you on here and we can just do like a MMA show. And we're just talking about the recent fights of boxing, or just talk about that kind of stuff.
Just a promo kind of thing. We ain't got to go long for them, I kind of figured this was kind of going to be short tonight, but man, you've told such a cool story. And that, honest to God, truth. And
this always happens. We always come
It always
here.
happens. I was thinking, we'll come over here 30, 45 minutes. We'll knock one out. But no, this has got into a real discussion, and it's really been...
Yeah, we're 2.5 hours in. This has been a long episode. It's just slipped by.
I have so much enjoyed it. I can't thank you enough.
This is one thing that, I love to do, because at one point in time, right before I got into bare knuckle to promote my MMA fights in the Roanoke area, me and the promoter, we had a Facebook Live podcast, and I'm very soft spoken. Before I was super soft spoken. I would freak out talking to people, or talk to people and be like very gentle with my words, and or hold back a lot while talking. And we ran our show for a smooth 2 years to promote the fights. We even had fights down here in Franklin County at the YMCA, and and I quickly found out that in order to promote yourself, you got to put it out there. You got to talk more to make people believe in you, and that is the perfect formula. Like after that podcast and me jumping on hundreds of podcasts and doing radio interviews and even talking to people in front of cameras, man, this is my calling. One of my coaches, the coach that I go to in Gretna, he's like, excuse my language, he's like, you're made for this shit. You like being in front of cameras and talking now. Because when I first seen you for the first time, I didn't remember who you was, but you had your belts walking around an event, but you were quiet with your chest poked out, and I had to ask my brother who you was, and my brother told me who you was, and he's like, that guy looks super cocky, but he don't say nothing. And when he seen me fight, he was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he gets it.
And now, like I said, I can't stay off of a podcast or listen to a podcast or often in front of a camera the best thing to do these days, I've come to find out, I learned the business side of things. The best way to promote anything is promote yourself, your business, and everything around it, because that's where you're going to get the most exposure. Because if nobody else does it, you have to do it yourself. You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing I try and tell Bodine, you know, and trying to keep our head straight with this thing. I was like, you know, we get phenomenal guests on here. We've never sat down in front of a guest we didn't enjoy, we didn't have fun with. We've had fun with every single one, no matter what the topic is. But at the end of the day, we're not just selling our guests. We have to sell ourselves too, because people can go find a lot of these guests we've had anywhere, but they're going to tune into us because they kind of like our flavor. They like what we bring to it. And for tonight, especially what we bring to it is we love Franklin County. We love where we're from. I don't think there's a better place on the planet. I think we've got tremendous athletes. We've got tremendous musicians. We've got tremendous cooks, moonshiners, whatever you want to call it. Everything we could ever want is right here. And we enjoy telling these stories. And for you to be going out there and fighting people like Ocho-Cinco and being on TV and giving hope to kids around here and being a role model, man, there's nothing else we want to promote more. So
FC's proud of you, man.
Yeah, that's my whole goal. That was one of my goals coming out of high school. I've seen so many people come from here that were athletes or whatever and go forward, but then they disappear and you don't ever hear from them again. I wanted to always, I tell my son this all the time, or even when I go talk to people or have conversations with the kids at the gym, I wanted to be that guy that was different, to move on with the athleticism that I got. I wanted to do something with it. If I didn't make it nowhere past being the age of 30, I tried. But to still be here and doing it, and now, you know, getting a lot of love from my hometown, and knowing that you guys are here, which is nuts in its own, because I like I said, I thought y'all were somewhere else. And when you said Rocky Mount, I was like, oh man, that's in my hometown. I wish I would have been. And we all.
Well, like I said, I've been wanting to hit you up for a while, and I was like, man, I'll just wait for a minute.
Football coaches. And,
I said, I'll just wait for a minute. I'm going to wait till I wanted for us to actually get a little bit bigger before we reached out to you. Like, man, this dude, you know, he's got 20,000 followers. He's been in a ton of fights. Let's wait till we can approach him. And before we could do that, you done hit us up. And we love it, man. We love promoting Franklin County. We love getting people on here and telling their stories. And speaking of Franklin County, before we get out of here, because I've been back and forth, we were talking a lot about Franklin County wrestling. And, you know, I've talked to David Ferguson quite a bit. He is a coach up there at the high school. And I was sending him a message during the show. It's like, man, we're talking a lot about the wrestling program. Anything, you know, you want us to talk about before we get off here? And he did say that here, September 16th, in a couple weeks coming up, we talked about him earlier, Chris Cahilla finally getting inducted into the Franklin County Hall of Fame. Why it took this town 20 years to put that man in the Hall of Fame, why it took our public school system, Bodine, 20 years, is beyond me.
You know why?
Politics.
Favorite word, politics.
Well, the man did more for
the school, the
school and the program. So that's coming up here September 16th. He's going to get his induction. That's going to be at the football game, and they're going to be up there. David also says that they're taking about 7 wrestlers this coming Saturday up to qualify for the Super 32.
Yeah, my son's going there this
Is he
weekend.
really?
Yeah, so while I'm at my fight, my son's going to be at the Super 32, and you know, that's extra motivation for me to, you know, get her done, but also checking on him throughout the day to, you know, keeping his head held high and wrestling his ass off, man. Like that's one thing about being from here that I've gotten, especially being around some of the coaches that you guys know and we've had dealings with. And now, like I meant to tell you earlier, I'm a very, very, very homegrown guy. Like if I would have knew.
Oh, we can tell you like hockey and racing. You're homegrown as it can possibly
we
get.
all are in the same.
I love racing. Like when it comes to anything that has to do with racing, I love drag racing. I love NASCAR. I love, you know, Indy cars. I love it all. Like I'm a very, very big advocate on modding my cars. Anything I ever drive is never stop.
That's what I hear you say. Look at you. And I noticed your name was Mr. Was it Mr. Red Rims?
Yes, sir. It's because of the glasses, you know.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking car rims, but okay.
Yeah, it's because of my glasses. When I did my very first, other than my podcast, the very first podcast that I ever did for Bare Knuckle, we were talking and they were like, the red rims, that's going to be your thing. And I'm sitting there like, nah, that's not going to be my thing.
That might be a name for a podcast.
Yeah.
And so, actually, it may be a name for a podcast. I'm going to have those details sooner or later when I get everything discussed about.
Well, I meant just the title.
For this specific show. Yeah, that'd be a good name for this show. We always
look for a title for something.
Yeah, definitely use that for sure. But, the podcasters, they were like, yeah, the red rims are going to be your it factor. That's how everybody's going to know you. And lo and behold, 3 years later, that's how a lot of people know me is because of my red glasses. Like, anywhere I go, especially with Bare Knuckle, even before the chat fight, that's my name, Mr. Red Rims. And, I never had a fight nickname before. They always ask me, what is your fight nickname? And last year, since it stuck so well, I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and use the Mr. Red Rims name. And, like I said before, I'm super homegrown. And if I knew you guys were here before, I always try to be more representative of my hometown and give my hometown people first dibs of everything, whether it be for a podcast, a meet and greet, or
that's us too. Yeah, we not the meet and greet so much, but the podcast.
The show people love, man, because
nobody wants to meet us.
Hey, you would be surprised, man, because I get offered to do a lot of stuff, and even with these bigger companies and bigger podcasts, my thing is if somebody from home or somebody local hits me up, I don't care if I already got something scheduled with you. I'm going to postpone that because I'm super homegrown. I love to show my homegrown hometown people love first because I'm one of those people. I'll never forget where I came from because I'm from Franklin County, Virginia, the moonshine capital of the world, and this is where I started. This has been a part of my journey. This is where I'm from. The good, the bad, the ugly, the dirty, all the politics, all that. We're
still in it together.
That's right.
Yes, sir. And my mom raised me to be like that. Don't forget where you came from, and I've stuck with that. I don't care if you're black, white, pink, or purple. If you're from my hometown, you got first dibs on everything.
We roll together
for damn sure.
And speaking of that too, David also said here in a couple of months he's trying to set up a fundraiser for the wrestling team up at Chaos Mountain Brewery. So maybe we can all hook up on that day and kind of help out for the wrestling team.
Hey,
you can get you up there and
anything. My thing is, like I tell him whenever I talk to him, anything for the Franklin County wrestling team, because without Franklin County wrestling team, I would not be here today because I'd be like some people I know either dead in jail or disappeared off the face of this earth or something, because like I said, Franklin County High School wrestling, even through the middle school program when I started, has gotten me to the point where I'm at. That's one reason why I'm so homegrown. Like I'm telling you, if I would have had scheduled a bigger podcast today that the whole world knows about, I would have postponed them and told them, no, I got something to do with my hometown.
What do you mean, man? The whole world knows about us. What are you talking about?
So you just get Joe Rogan to be with us?
Yes,
if you did that, I'd hit you when you come in here, and I would have taken whatever beating I would have got for it. I mean, you took Joe Rogan over us, but we do appreciate it, though, man. We do.
This is awesome, and it's been a great conversation. I can't believe there was so much we had in common here, and we put one heck of a show together. We may even have to split this into two, but
we might. But either way, no, I don't want to split this. I want people to listen to this, and I think they will, because they're gonna get in tune, and they're gonna start recognizing a lot of the stuff we're talking about. And for the people that even aren't from Franklin County, they get a good insight on somebody that goes out there and fights. And you can find Brian on Brian Maxwell MMA Fighter on Facebook and Instagram under Brian Maxwell. You on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm Brian Maxwell Official on Twitter, because apparently somebody else had my name, my whole username, and I'm like, this is not even my account, so I'm going to just use Brian Maxwell Official on Twitter.
That happens. Even Donald Trump had to use the real Donald Trump on Twitter. People out there all the time
I almost used that name. I almost put the real
Brian, but you should.
You don't think Facebook's not listening? I just went into Facebook because I didn't follow you on Facebook. I typed in BR and your name came up. I'm telling you.
First one that popped up.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the rest of us concerned, of course, you can catch us, Appalachian Podcast, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And for our Patreon subscribers, we're still working on, getting shows out there. We're finally starting to get to the point where we're getting a lot of shows and we're recording a lot of shows and having some on the back burner. So you can go to our Patreon page, $3 a month. It's very simple. That's all you're paying. If you're going to pay people to, money that hates you every month, at least give us $3, supporting us, good content. You get guys like Brian, Steve Mowry, Travis Armstrong, all these brawlers we've had on here before, race car drivers, everything, man. It's phenomenal. Brian, we are super looking forward to you fighting this weekend. Can't wait to talk about it on next week's show. And hopefully we can get you back on here again sometime. And if we can't before then, let's all do this thing for the wrestling program up at Chaos whenever David does
cool
it.
To do.
Yeah.
Just let them know a date, and I'm there because, like I said, everything that I've done up until this point is because of the Franklin County Wrestling Program. Like I said, I'm a hometown guy. I love it, and I appreciate you guys for having me. I'm just upset that I'm just now finding out that y'all are here in my hometown, man.
No, we're glad, man. We're glad. That means we still got a lot of people to reach in this town. That humbles us. We got a lot of people to reach in this town. So, as far as that's concerned, Bodine, you got anything else?
Nothing else. I'm out, man.
Well, Brian, thank you so much again, and good luck this weekend, and we can't wait to see you again.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Right, thank you.
6 deep in the house.
Yeah. 6 deep. 6 deep. Take them boys out the county, but not the county out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Take them boys out the county, but not the county out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Yeah. Goes a little something like this. Doe Run, Callaway, Works Fair, Suntag, Boone's Mill, Glade Hill, Burnt Chimney, Centersville, Westlake, Redwood, True Vine, Pinhook, Snow Creek, Rocky Mount. That's what I'm talking about. The boys out the county, then you better watch out. Cause them boys from the county will knock you out. Yeah. Boys from the county, them boys from the county, them boys from the county will knock you out. County boys, tough as hell, love to play, rough as hell. Every weekend they got their yards full of stuff to sell. Got a Sheetz, got a Kroger, got a Walmart, got a movie theater, arcade, bowling alleys, good start. Something them boys got that you ain't got, man. Them boys got a hot dog stand. Take the boys out the county, but out the county, out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Take the boys out the county, but out the county, out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Making noise. Franklin County in the house tonight. Franklin County in the house tonight.
6 deep in the house.
Them boys from the county live back in the sticks, but don't call us 6, we carry 30 off 6. Yeah, we hunt and we fish and we even milk cows. Moonshine capital, what you think about them now? And if you get lost dog and you really don't know, just follow your road to that Route 40 or that 220, cause all our back roads leads to one of those. I promise you for sure. Take the boys out the county, but not the county out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Take them boys out the county, but not the county out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Yeah, baby. Where's all my county people at right now? Where y'all at? Aw, snap, Union Hall, yeah, Hardy Endicott. Didn't have you in the first verse, thought I forgot. I'm at Smith Mountain Lake, chilling on the dock, trying to get my tan. I'm the man, that's just who I am. That's just what I do down 122. Man, I'm headed out to Rocky Mount to hang out with you. Game day, what the name say, man, it's time to speak. See me playing 9 holes of golf down at Willow Creek. And we a different breed, we have different needs. We the Eagles, baby, so I guess we flap our wings. BK Spring, you all know what I mean. Land with the lakes, and we in between. Big bald knob, corn on the cob. Yeah, we bale hay, what more is there to say? Pig River Ramble, Cable 12 is the channel. That's where you can find these animals. Coming down the river, it got hotter. Guess I'll take my shirt off and jump in the water. Franklin County, Virginia, baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah, you call us rednecks, call us what you want. One thing you won't call us is scared. You diggin'? Take the boys out the county, but not the county out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Take them boys out the county, but not the county out them boys. If them boys out the county, then you know they making noise. Shout out to Ravens Country Store, baby. What? Go get you a hot dog. We got some bounty out of the boy.